Yeah, I'll try this.
We do have quorum,
Yep, you can
so
start.
thank you very much. We're gonna start. And, so what I'm gonna do, because I can, is I'm gonna switch the agenda a little bit, and I'm just gonna switch the community concerns / number 6 and number 7, I'm bringing up front.
Okay.
All right, community concerns and any other committee business that may be brought before the committee. So, we don't, I don't know whether or not we have to do attendance. Do we have to do attendance?
Yeah, it should,
Yeah, just to be official, who knows? This is the Governance Committee of Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation, and we're starting the meeting, and so we'll just start with the attendance. And I am Lydia Tong, I'm Chair of the Governance Committee here at REOC.
Ben Falla, a member of the committee.
Tom Wakefield, member of the committee.
A lot of stuff.
Megan
for associate,
Anderson, member of the committee as well.
Fantastic. And anybody else that wants to, and coming in, I'm introducing Drew, who's coming in with water, so thank you very much, Drew. Do you want to, introduce yourself, Drew?
Sure. Hi, my name is Sudita Amin. I'm the CFO and Vice President of REOC.
Okay. And online, I'm going to let everybody online who's here introduce yourself, please.
But they're not participants technically.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just observers.
All right. So I know that, okay. All right, so everybody else is just observing. That's fine. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm bringing up, agenda items 6 and 7 up to the front, and we're gonna go over those things, hopefully, relatively, expeditiously. And, Ben has a certain list of items that he wants to go through, which are community concerns, and I think they're very important, that need to be addressed through governance. So I'm just, let Ben address it.
Thank you so much, Professor Tang. So, I reached out to you earlier today, to bring up a few items I think are critical for us to talk in the governance committee as part of our work. And the first item that I really want to bring up is this ongoing, executive leaves that are getting paid while they're not here. We're talking obviously at this stage about Shelton and Gretchen. I think it's been going on for too long, 9 months of paid leave. The company is falling apart. The team members are not really working well with each other at this stage, and our leadership team is definitely have been absent. So I think it's time for us to make a decision, and I believe that the right approach at this stage is to immediately terminate both of them, obviously for different reasons. But I would like to kind of like, before we kind of have this conversation to decide what we're doing, take a little step back in time to kind of like so everyone understands how we got here. So when we joined the board, and I say we, that's Professor Tang, Dr. Melamed, myself, Gerald, who was the Associate General Counsel, reached out to us day one as soon as we arrived.
Deputy General. Deputy General.
Deputy General, thank you. Deputy General Counsel approached us and said, there are issues in the organization. And for 5 months continuously provided us for information from contracts that seemed to be unethical to fear of hostility of employees, that they're afraid to even walk in the island and talk to people because they're afraid that they're going to be reported, through salary increases that no one knew what their merit was. And we dug into it throughout 6 months, and all of the allegations that Gerald presented to us seemed to have merit. And initially he was approaching me because he asked for my cell phone, and I granted that to him. He didn't want to use his REOC communications to do that, so we met in coffee shops at times, or we met in private settings. I reached out to the IG's office to make sure, because I'm new to government, that it's okay for me to interact with an employee not on government issued devices, and they said that it's appropriate, so I continued on with that pursuit and made sure that whatever he presented to me, that he presented it also to the IG's office, and also to Howard Polivi, and also to Ruth Ann. And every time he brought something up to me, I made sure that Howard Polivi was in the loop. Gerald told me that Howard is the key to interact with the remainder of the board. There was obviously some breakage between the board members. There was the new kids and there was Howard Polivy and his group. At least that's what we understood. In December, the board decided, well, the majority of the board in executive session decided to terminate Shelton and Gretchen, not to put them on executive leave, not to start an investigation. The majority of the board in executive session said, let's terminate Shelton and Gretchen.
Ben, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
That's a part of executive session. I'm just.
I'm
Yeah, can
very-
we,
Yes,
this is
and I
not
don't think
appropriate.
we need to be dis-
I'm very aware, but this is the agenda item that I'm bringing. You could always make another
Yes,
complaint.
but then you're violating the confidentiality of executive session and
I
potentially
understand that, and I'm doing
whistleblower
it
coverage.
fairly, and I'm okay with
This
I
is not-
appreciate
no.
that. I appreciate that
I don't care you're okay
observation.
with it. It is not appropriate to be discussed in public like this and on public
I
record.
appreciate your perspective on it. So
I don't think
after,
I
after,
don't think
We
you're allowed
cannot
to be
discuss
No,
the
no.
content of executive session.
we have to stop.
Pause.
We have to stop. We have to stop.
Okay.
So, in executive session, I understand your perspective, but cannot
okay.
talk about what
So
happened.
moving on from that, in January, we were informed that an investigation is soon to be started. That decision was not made by us. It was made outside of that meeting by Howard Polivy, and to my understanding, Ruth Ann and David Jimenez, from what I understand. It was then informed to us about it, that it's starting. We didn't really have a say in it. An investigation pursued. Not long after that, I discovered that Gerald is going around the island telling everyone that he was recommended or that he was promised to become the CEO within the next 2 months. So when January started and he was, it looked like he was now comfortable with whatever decisions were made, he was comfortable with this new investigation, he felt confident that within 2 months he'll be the CEO, and multiple employees and also people on the island came to us to let us know or to ask us, has Gerald been promised to be the CEO? Obviously, that didn't happen, and obviously, we're 9 months in, and it's just inappropriate for us to continue going on at this stage. And I think it behooves on us to bring it up publicly at this stage because there's a limited amount of public weight and the limited amount of leadership that has been involved in this island for so many months. So I would ask if we're willing as a committee to move this up to the full board for a vote to separately 2 new business items, one to terminate Shelton for cause, and the second is terminate Gretchen just because it didn't work out. I don't think it's for cause. I don't have enough information to say it's for cause. But I do know that we need a general counsel, and we can't go on without one.
Okay, so my perspective is, and so maybe I should go around first, get everybody else's perspective first, and then I'll give my perspective. So I'm just gonna go around. So,
I will start because I believe this is subject to executive session. All these decisions regarding termination or something, that's not something that needs to be discussed now. We have pending litigation, and I don't think it's appropriate to discuss it at this point now. That's my input. We need to discuss it, but not right now and not here. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is section 105 of the open meetings law specifically carves out for executive session this exact type of discussion for a reason. I would agree with Lana that I don't disagree with, whether or not we do or don't, but I think this is a discussion that we need to have in executive session in the board.
okay.
Yeah, normally, personnel matters are, discussed at the, executive session level. But I understand, your concern, in terms of meeting of legal fees, the continuance of salary payment to, employees that are put on administrative leave and are not helping with the day-to-day operations and are not part of the decision-making. So I completely understand that. And I hope it is discussed at the executive session, because the cash is very tight and, we, have other, priorities, at the moment, where cash can be utilized.
Megan?
I agree with Conway. This is not the venue to be discussed here. I think this is a full board matter and should 100% be done in executive session and not in the public like this and in compliance with open meetings law.
In compliance with the open meetings law, that it should not be done in public now, but in
That
executive
that
session.
it is supposed to be done in executive session.
Okay. Okay, so this is my perspective. My perspective is that we were just put into a red bus crisis this past month. And there have been other, circumstances that have been very, specific that should have been addressed, by maybe in executive session, but it was not addressed in executive session. And if it's not going to be addressed in executive session, we need to bring it to the full board. And a lot of what has or has not been addressed in executive session has been determined not by the board members, but by, or have not been allowed to be addressed in executive session because of the outdated governance. We've been, the outdated governance policies and the outdated, hi, Margie, have a seat, thanks, good to see you. Yeah, please.
Apologize for being late.
So, a lot of the issues that have not been addressed in, executive session need to be addressed, and if they aren't being addressed in executive session, then we need to bring them to the board. And I feel very strongly that they need to be brought to the board. And if you're saying that it needs to be addressed in executive session, if they are addressed in executive session, that's great, but most of the time, they have not been, and this issue has been brought up multiple times in and outside of executive session. It has not been addressed. So this is my frustration. If it's not been addressed in executive session, we need to address it at the open board meeting.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's my perspective right now. I feel like we need to bring it to the board meeting so it gets addressed because it's not being addressed in or outside of the executive session.
Great. So
And,
should we recommend on moving it up to the full board for a vote?
So when you're,
In
I'm
executive
sorry,
session
can we
or out of it?
I have a question, just a clarification question on what Lydia just said. When you say executive session or bring it to the full board, we do have the full
Both,
board in executive session to discuss these matters. I guess
Right.
what's
I'm
your,
thinking vote.
what is
not
your
discussion.
issue that we're not in a full board meeting? I don't understand. Because we
So
have
you
the full
can-
board present for executive session to discuss these things with our council. And without getting into too much detail, I just want to be clear, we have been discussing this topic. We've done it on advice of council. We have multiple outside councils handling this. So what, like,
We
you
need to
feeling
bring it to a
not
vote.
heard in that session, or because it's open to discussion at that time? I don't want to, let's not get into details of the topics, but we've had executive sessions on this at almost every single board meeting for the last 6 months. So what's not being handled?
The vote is not being handled. It's not being brought to a vote, and it needs to be brought to a vote. And you said multiple times that we cannot have a vote in executive session, so I am presenting this to be brought to the board, full board, outside of executive session, to be brought to a vote, and I think that it's crucial that it be brought to the board sooner rather than later, at this point, because right now, it's later. It's much later than it should have been. That's my concern. So that's my recommendation. I recommend that we bring this to a full board for a vote.
I second that.
Because we can't have a vote in executive session.
Okay, so it's.
No,
Hi, great to see you.
you can't have a vote in executive session.
Yeah.
Not according to,
No, you can totally vote in the executive session.
well,
You can vote in
Yeah.
executive session, yes, you can.
we usually just never end up doing it, but to your point, but yeah,
Yeah, you can
absolutely.
vote on
Executive session
particular
is no
items.
different from a full board meeting, it's just done without the public in view.
Well, every time we come out of this,
We're always supposed to take a vote in executive session.
Oh, yeah.
They told that to us all the time.
yeah,
Oh.
They all-
so even if you know that we can't, so this is what happens, has been happening in the board. We have been gaslit. The new board members have been gaslit. We have been told that the chair of the board and the general counsel comes up with committee members. So it was incumbent on us to figure out what the language of the bylaws was, to figure out that we, the board members, are supposed to come up with committee members. And the chair of the board only comes up with one committee member, is only allowed to appoint one committee member, and the rest of the committee members are supposed to be appointed by the board. That's per the bylaws. And then we were told the bylaws are outdated. So then we don't know what the law is, or I don't know what the law is. I don't know what laws outdate or supersede the bylaws.
There's no law.
Okay, so now you
It's
know.
not addressed in the.
Now you know, yes.
But
The
in any event-
question would
No.
not supersede bylaws.
There are a lot of things that were.
Public authorities law supersedes the bylaws.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, but what happened was, in executive session, we decided on doing something in January, and then we were told that thing could not be done because the open meetings law supersedes that, and so therefore, we can't do that.
Well, sure,
So that's what I'm saying.
And as I
We,
said-
as non-lawyers on the board, don't know what in the bylaws have been superseded by open
Yeah.
meetings laws.
And I want to be
No.
super clear, in December, the board in executive session voted or decided to fire Shelton and Gretchen in a majority. We walked out of the board and were told you can't do that, and since then, we were in investigations for the last 9 months. This board has no power, and I guess Ruth Ann and her team do everything they can to keep the control on their end. But at this stage, we're more than happy to do a vote in executive session, we're more than happy to do a vote in public, but we can't have two executives who are making almost $500,000 a year and not have the leadership that's needed on the island. We need a general counsel, and we need a CEO. And that needs to happen ASAP. Whatever mechanisms you do, you want to continue paying them, the governor should continue paying them, but we need a new CEO, and we need a new general counsel.
So that's why I'm moving that this committee bring this to the board for a vote, because we've had enough discussions in the executive session. We've had enough discussions outside executive session. I think it's time for a vote.
Agreed.
yeah, I think we're all in agreement, we'll continue to talk about this in executive session and take a vote. And just, I wanted to clarify for the record, section 105, the only thing that we can't vote on in executive session is a vote to appropriate public money. That's the only thing that's called out in 105. Everything else is totally fair game.
So as long as it's on the agenda, if in the private agenda or public agenda, it needs to be in the agenda. And let's move on to the next item.
Okay.
So investigations, we love doing them. We love doing them also without the board's consent, and with our bylaws don't really write explicitly how do investigations start. And although we're kind of late in the game of writing our bylaws right now, I think both investigations that I had purview to started and originated in, I would call it sin. This board should have enough power to decide when we're spending millions of dollars on an investigation. If it's the Greenberg Turing, if it's a new investigation, the board never voted on starting an investigation. The board passively heard from Ruth Ann and Howard that an investigation will commence. I don't think we should be continuously paying bills on more and more investigations when the IG has an investigation, there's multiple government agencies that are doing investigations. I don't think we ever approved this investigation, so one is I would ask to conclude it in whatever amount of time is needed, 30 days or less, to just write up whatever the report that they need to provide to the board. And two, to come up with a new mechanism that explains clearly how do you start an investigation, who starts it, is it the audit committee, is it the governance committee, is it the full board? We need to come up with something that is reasonable and then add it into our bylaws.
Is this an investigation that, we're paying for?
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of
And
money.
that didn't come up to you, just forget about this.
It was a
subject.
by the way mentioned to us, but we didn't vote on it ever.
How can you not vote on something?
That's what I'm asking.
Oh, no, it was voted on.
Sorry,
It was voted on.
It was never voted on.
yeah, and
was never voted on.
investigative
That's not
powers lie with audit committee, and chair of audit committee can recommend, it's in our bylaws.
So that's, so the chair of the audit committee decided on it. There was no.
Yeah, because
vote.
they have these powers,
Yeah, I'm
of
on the audit.
investigative powers
I
in the
am on
audit
the audit
committee.
Did you get to vote on it?
I didn't vote on it. Or if I did vote on it, I have no memory of voting on it.
We were aware when it
We
was
were
started.
told that, we were told so we were told in, executive session. So I apologize, once again, I'm
was
talking
gonna
about
say,
executive session.
You're
So
going down.
I will back it up, but in terms of the audit committee, in terms of the audit committee, I did not vote on it. That I remember. If I did vote on it, I have no recollection of it. Maybe I was in California at the time and I was doing it, but,
Forget about the audit committee, an expenditure of that size should have gone to the board, shouldn't it?
yeah. So I don't remember voting
It was
on it
never
in the
voted.
audit committee, and I don't remember voting on it in the board,
I
at the
mean,
board.
but-
I'm sorry, wait.
So Lotta, you're saying that it was voted on in the board?
I'm not
It
saying
should
it was
have.
voting, I'm
I'm
just
sure.
saying,
I wasn't
powers
here
to
during that time, I can't
investigate
speak to that.
lies with
I was
audit
here,
committee.
and I could say it to you without stuttering, there was no vote to start this
Yeah,
investigation.
I pretty much attended every board meeting.
I did, I was in all the meetings.
Especially in those days,
Yeah.
and I don't remember.
That's easily verifiable.
Sure,
We
right.
can find
Well, it
it.
doesn't matter, the point is,
But the point is, it's going on forever. I think it's a waste of public funds.
And it's, the cost of doing this is over $1 million. We don't have the money.
How much money
So
do
is
we
this
have?
an
Spending
audit
the
committee
money?
discussion or is this a governance committee discussion? Which is it? 'Cause
Yes, the
I
audit
think it should be
committee,
if you're
either.
discussing the dollars, this should be with audit, not here.
Okay,
Yes.
but it is governance committee to know whether or not it was, voted on.
but the audit committee is in the bylaws and in other authorities' bylaws, the audit committee shall have responsibilities related to special investigations and whistleblower policies, so they can initiate investigation. It's in the powers of the chair of the audit committee.
Not chair,
So-
the whole
The
committee.
the audit committee,
The
yes,
whole
but,
committee, yeah.
right.
And that sounds reasonable. If a vote happened in that committee, I think that's
But
reasonable.
committee decide things by consensus normally, we don't.
So if there was a consensus and there's
But
on the record.
But it's
then-
also supposed to be brought up to the full board. So the audit committee makes
Makes a
the
recommendation.
recommendation, and then at that dollar level,
right.
Right.
which is $1 million, coming up to $1 million, should have been brought to the full board. And it was not, to my recollection.
And then even-
Although if it was, and I was in California online, and I missed it.
It
I
wasn't.
apologize.
It
Well,
wasn't,
at
but-
that time, nobody thought the investigation would also take this long.
And if you recall, there was no active committee,
Yeah, exactly,
really.
well, because of it
Because
taking
of
so
what,
long,
yeah.
yeah.
In any event, we need to come up with some sort of resolution in
Yeah.
the future, and then maybe this is a conversation about how do we prevent this from happening in the future, and how do we make sure that investigations are voted on before they start if we decide to spend more funds in the
So-
future.
So maybe we
Something
should,
in the bylaws by the governance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the audit committee says to then revert to the full board or
Right.
recommend to the full board or something like that.
so in procurement, maybe it's a matter of enforcing the procurement levels to be brought to the, because right now, what is it, 175, right?
Yeah.
175, we have well past 175,000 for the investigation, and so we need to stop it. So this is very important that the governance committee enforce the procurement policy, and we have well passed that procurement level of $175,000.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
That
that's,
makes sense.
we need.
So we need a vote of the board to continue paying for this investigation. Okay, so we're ready for the next item?
Next item.
So,
Unless anybody else has anything to contribute to the subject.
all right, so a few months ago, and I don't recall exact dates, I went on a tour in the steam tunnel and found out that about 20 years ago, there was a structural engineer report that said that the steam tunnel is under structural risk, and they recommended that no one drives above it or walks above the steam tunnel. Now, technically, it's been 20 years, and people walk on it, and cars go on it as well.
I said there should be cataclysmic consequences.
And then I learned, as I walked down the tunnel, that suddenly there was a cement wall in the end of the middle of the tunnel. And I found out that that's because RIAC approved, or at least unofficially, because I never saw any document, that RIAC told the construction of building number 9 that they could break into the tunnel and put up a cement wall there. So in a public meeting in the in the Real Estate Advisory Committee, I asked, did a structural engineer review this and make sure that it's proper? I was told yes. I asked if you could provide me with that structural engineer report. I was said yes. After that, I found out that there is no structural engineer report and one never was produced. I followed up with Drew and the team and asked for the documentation that authorized breaking the structure or breaking into the tunnel, and that was never produced or never provided as well. So right now we have a structure that 20 years ago was said.
I think it was understood that it was approved by RIAC, for Hudson Related, who's the contractor for building number 9, to do whatever's necessary to, to construct their building.
Right. But at the same time, RIAC is, by the way, the steam tunnel is under dispute. RIAC says it's not ours. Health and Hospital says it's not ours. Health and Hospital says it never was ours because it belonged to like a prior hospital and we have nothing to do with it. So at this stage, this land is no one wants to take ownership over it.
Correct.
No one wants to take ownership of it, but at the same time, we let a contractor break into it and change the structure even without a structural engineer report. Now, we already know 20 years ago that the state of the property itself is under damage and under risk, but we're not willing to take ownership over that land. And at the same time, we're allowing third parties who are not part of us to break into that land. And I don't know what is the course of action, but the course of action is definitely we can't allow for something that we know 20 years ago that might collapse without us doing anything, even if we don't want to take legal ownership over that land. And I think we need our assistance from the state, we need assistance from someone to step in and provide resources to fix this area so it's not a public hazard. So I'm bringing up as governance because no one else is bringing it up, and unfortunately the Real Estate Advisory Committee are not picking up on it. But we cannot allow for literally this piece of land here to collapse without anyone noticing, and then suddenly people might die. It's been 20 years. Are we really just going to wait for a catastrophe to take place before we do anything?
All right, before we spend another second talking about this in the governance committee, I just want point of order. Don't dispute anything that you just said, but this is not the forum for real estate and operations. Mm-hmm. We should totally leave those to those committees. They can recommend it to the board. We can discuss it there. We should not be spending any more time talking about that here.
So I'll recommend moving it to the Real Estate Advisory Committee as an urgent matter and compelling Howard Polivi to bring it up as an agenda item.
I'll just
That was great.
one sentence to close this off. It is under discussion right now between the city and the state because of the ground lease.
Right.
Apparently that issue came and everybody wants to get the ground lease done, and that's gonna have to be solved
Right.
as part of the ground lease, so it's already being worked on urgently.
And that is all being paused and on hold because of agenda number 1. Everyone's waiting for us to find out what's happening with Shelton and Gretchen until the conversation's resumed.
Why do we need them?
They're not doing.
Because it's just the reality, because no one's talking to RIAC until that matter is
No
resolved.
one's doing anything until this.
I don't know why, I can't talk into
And I
the,
think the city has their own obligations.
I'm
Yes.
sure they do.
Their leadership, so.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, but,
And
we're
we've
already-
heard there's been no movement on the master lease discussion.
so I would like to agree with Conway and say, let's make sure this comes up into
Yeah.
the agenda item
yeah,
of
I
the Real
didn't
Estate
start
Advisory
anything. I
Committee.
just wanted to let you know that they had.
And moving on to the next item.
And there are, just to let you know, there are some unsafe conditions.
Yeah.
Where pedestrians and where, cars.
Yeah,
or-
this is dangerous.
Or trucks drive over, but, pedestrian traffic, for the time being, because we did this, we reviewed the, structural assessment as well as the risk assessment, with Langen yesterday. We'll produce you a report once we, finalize.
And I'm just
all our
looking behind,
findings.
there's a car right on top
But-
of the tunnel right
Yeah,
now.
but there's a particular area where, if a van or a bus or a vehicle was parked, it can collapse. But that section, no one drives over, just
Okay.
to let you know.
Okay, that's good to
Yeah.
know.
exactly.
That's actually really good to know.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll
So
move on.
where is that, just for my
That structure.
curiosity, where is that place that no cars driving over, so we know not to put
Mm.
people there either?
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. I'll let you know,
Thank you very
Yeah.
much, appreciate it.
once we get the map.
Okay, great, fantastic.
okay, so hopefully we'll move this on to, the Real Estate Advisory Committee. Let's talk about legal staffing. So our legal team is very understaffed, not only if we bring a new general counsel,
But at this point, we can't bring a new general.
right, but even that, like, and hopefully we resolve this in executive session, but we need more lawyers, and we need more competent lawyers in litigation, because we offload almost everything onto third parties, and we're spending millions of dollars on legal fees because of that. So what I recommend as the governance committee, to recommend to the board to increase the staffing of the legal team to 5, from 3. I think that 5 would provide enough team members to be able to cut down on our external dependencies and start moving things back in-house. I don't know if anyone objects to that, because it's kind of straightforward. I would recommend to bring that as a new business item for the full board.
Okay, I am in full agreement, I am taking comments, so let's go around the table, Lada.
Litigation was never held in-house at TRIC, and even with addition a new lawyer, it's unlikely to happen, because the litigation concerns different areas. It could be personnel matters, it could be contracts, real estate, something else. And at the moment, I'm the only lawyer at the corporation. I would, of course, appreciate that we staff the legal department as soon as possible, but I do not think, first of all, we have general counsel who is on administrative leave. At the same time, we cannot bring any other general counsel. But assistant counsel would help, of course. That's my comment.
So you think you only need one more legal counsel to build?
We need at least to have 3 attorneys.
Right.
And we do have 3 attorneys and a paralegal on our budget.
And would 5 reduce the dependencies on third parties in any way?
I cannot tell at this moment. Because I don't know what kind of litigation, again, because if it's litigation, we go to different outside counsel based on the nature of a claim.
Sure.
So what about for like union matters or just,
Yeah, we have
Some-
labor, because we have several, we have different.
slip and fall cases, things like that?
Yes, it's always, at least since the moment I'm here, since 2008, it was always outside counsel. We have 2 panels, labor and real estate, and labor and employment. These are different lawyers, so it could be like litigation for this law firms and for other law firms. So if you select someone who is expert in real estate, he won't be able to handle,
Every single other item.
That's common for state agencies to not have litigation counsel on staff and to contract that out, because things can be so specific, and you don't want to have a staff person who's just sitting around doing nothing if their only responsibility is labor litigation and nothing is happening. It's standard practice for all state agencies to have panels.
So,
I guess I don't know enough about, the legal areas that REAC has to cover, to be able to know whether they need 3, 5, or 6. So,
Right.
Lada, what are the basic components? We have the 3 attorneys here, the general counsel, I guess the associate, and then what is the division of labor?
different variations. So we, general counsel, we have deputy counsel and assistant counsel and paralegal. We have times when we have general counsel, associate counsel, and assistant counsel, so
Right.
it varies. But it's always general counsel and 2 more junior counsels. So it's 3. And we actually kind of universal lawyers, because we have to handle contracts and transactions and also supervise, manage litigation, even though we don't engage personally in litigation and we don't do this in-house. We still engage with outside counsel on different litigation matters, which includes, again, employment, contracts, personal trip and falls, personal injury, and all different types of litigation that concerns the state agencies. That's why we have to do everything, and that's why we have this outside counsel panels, just like any other authority or agency, just like Megan said. So we handle a variety of issues, starting from assisting with corporate governance and assisting the board, advising the corporation on a variety of legal matters, again, concerning governance, employment, construction projects, everything, freedom of information law requests, e-discovery. So that's a huge.
I have no idea, what is the percentage of, outsourced legal responsibility?
It's litigation is outsourced.
Yeah,
Just that's the only part that's outsourced?
Yes, the only part that's outsourced
Litigation
is
can go
only
on and on and
litigation,
on and on
yes.
and on. That's
I think you could do, just like any company would do, you could do a business case.
No, but we also use like.
Oh, hold on,
Right.
wait,
No,
stop.
but we also use,
One person.
real estate attorneys, for consultation.
Yes,
We use, outside, human resources attorneys for consultation. We have a union attorney
Of course.
that we use as well. So, it's very broad.
yes.
Yeah, so it's not
Union-
litigation.
So yes, you're right. Thank you for correcting me. So it's employment matters on labor and real estate as separate law firms.
So I think from what I'm hearing is that the right number for you is 3, and it's not 5.
Would be 4.
But why should it be 4 if you're saying everything is outsourced?
No, but for 2 months I have
With a
alone.
paralegal or with an actual junior counsel?
I don't know. I think I honestly don't know where
Can
we're
I
stopping
ask
here.
a question? How do you normally go about, before there were these absences, how did you guys normally go about staffing the department?
The legal department is always understaffed. For years, we either didn't have a paralegal for 11 years, or we didn't have, there's always something missing. It's never a full department. It should be 4 at least, but it's never 4.
Right, sure.
We never had a time when we have all 4 positions filled, 3 lawyers and a paralegal.
And we can't be just one. That's just
Absolutely not.
reasonable.
No, that's.
So you have to hire people. If we're terminating someone, not terminating someone, we need more lawyers in the staff.
So I think it would make
Yeah.
sense to us to take direction from you as the representative of the legal department as to what our staffing needs should look like, and then we could recommend that to the board.
That makes sense? That's very reasonable.
Yeah.
Others would be willing to
But do
figure that
appointments
out.
at the staff level, they don't come to the board? Only the senior staff
Say that
positions will
again,
come to the board?
Megan.
My
Megan, say
understanding
that
is,
again.
my understanding is that positions at the staff level below senior executive positions don't come to the board for approval. That's just handled internally.
Right.
So if
And
anything,
that's
it
true,
should
and
just
that's
be included in the
Lada
budget
and
to
I have
support that
discussed.
number, and then Lada could move forward with staffing up her team.
Yes, you're correct.
Which
Thanks
is
for
also
correcting.
in process as well, right? You have a few
The actual.
hires
hiring of-
posted?
Wait, one person. Keep on going, Megan, finish.
I was just saying, I believe there's 1 or 2 positions posted for that team right now to
Yes.
be hired, correct?
At least,
Correct, one
assistant counsel is
Yes.
now advertised, yes, and posted.
Mhm.
So
And
it's
we-
in process.
Correct,
Mhm.
that's right.
That we do not have a general counsel.
We do not, because
We
they're
have one on leave.
on leave, and so we can't hire a general counsel while they're on leave.
But I would imagine they might want to say on who's coming onto the legal team, wouldn't they? Whoever, whether it's the woman who returns or a new person.
Okay,
I think for the moment, while they're on leave, they can't make any decisions. They're not tied to, the organization,
Right.
the day-to-day operations. So we can still continue the
More.
search. Yes.
okay, so, go ahead.
Okay, well, the actual hiring and to do whatever would not come to the board initially approved a head count as part of the budget. If we're gonna increase that head count, the board ought to know about that and have the right to say yes or no.
Correct.
But I would just look at this like any old company would do. You look at this department,
Mhm.
you do an analysis, how much are we outsourcing, what is it?
Right.
How much would it cost to do that in-house? And if
Right.
it makes sense to do it financially, then you do it, and if not, you keep
Right.
outsourcing. I would be surprised if it cost very much more actually to use outside, because we've got pretty high benefits and salaries here, and it may be cheaper to be outsourcing.
That totally makes sense to me.
But we really don't know without an analysis.
Right.
No, Gerald, I had put an analysis together, and Gerald and I discussed it, because there's about 11 different legal firms
Right.
that we're paying legal fees to. So I said, you know, what kind of preventative measures, you know, can we have in place, to reduce the legal fees, and what can be taken back in-house,
Right.
you know, versus, you know, what can be outsourced.
And if it is taken back, would that even be cheaper than
Yes.
actually leaving it?
Exactly, it can be.
Well, it's
It
good
can
that
be.
it's being looked at. Yes,
Absolutely.
someone is
Mhm.
actually looking at.
So what was the
Exactly.
conclusion of that debate, of that
The
conversation?
conclusion of that was that, definitely union matters, can be taken back in-house,
Mhm.
but that's when the legal department is properly staffed.
Right, right.
And certain like, slip and fall, you know,
Mhm.
cases, like personal injury cases.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
No? Absolutely not what?
okay.
A personal injury, no. But just like Megan said, that's what outsourced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that
No, I
must be a
understand,
lot of activity here.
But I think the constant sort of, you know, correspondence with the outside attorneys on these slip and falls, I think can be reduced as well.
So full
So-
disclosure, I slipped and fell today.
Hmm.
I'm not suing anybody, okay? So, but the thing
It
is,
depends, yeah, where did it fall? And what was it, the Zeebrugge?
Hmm.
it was crossing the street. So I slipped and fall coming here. So, but the thing is, Lotta, from your perspective, how many slip and falls throughout the years have there been?
The number of slip and falls actually reduced because we are fixing Zeebrugge and fixing the roads and
Yes, that would
potholes.
help, yeah.
So,
That helps.
and the fact that we have this amount of litigation at the moment does not mean that we'll have it the next year. I honestly hope that the amount of litigation would reduce.
Right.
And so if we fix the roads and fix the sidewalks, we will reduce the number of slip and falls. We are always named as a defendant because something is happening in residential developments. And then we tender these cases to appropriate insurance carriers for this residential development. We're just named as a landlord and it's not even REIX cases.
Yeah, I just want to go back to Megan's point, because she's absolutely correct. I think we might be spinning our wheels here, because the board removes or appoints the president, the CFO, the general counsel, the COO. All the other employees are removed or hired by the CEO and president.
But
So-
that's within the context of the budget that the board approved.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
increase in the headcount.
But what I mean is, we don't need to deliberate that as a board.
Well,
No, as a board, we're not talking about hiring or firing, we're talking about what is the right amount of people that you need to be able to have a good.
Yeah, but
Okay.
then it shouldn't be only legal department, it should be
Right.
any department. If other departments increase or decrease their staffing without going to the board, I don't understand why legal department, if we do this for entire corporation, the complete count and review every department, it should be done consistently. We cannot take one department and discuss this one other department
Well, the total overhead.
are growing.
Account is 139.5 employees. So there's years where we've gone up to 144 because of people coming and leaving, and et cetera. So in a year, you can have two people for the same position, unfortunately, yeah. So, so there are times that, you know, it has gone a little bit higher as I was looking back. But the total overall number is 139.5, and we can most likely beef up the legal department because there's a lot of vacancies that we have that are in that 139.5 number, which we're not gonna hire.
Yeah.
But it's part of the number.
It's part of the number.
Yeah.
I think to me, it sounds like that, you guys need to have a conversation offline, obviously, Drew Lauder, to figure out if the team needs another lawyer or not. And then if it needs to go through the audit committee for approval of changing or not, or just moving forward. Whatever the mechanism, we want to make sure that we have a staffed legal team that could provide the services that it needs to provide. So, I think that's enough for this topic.
Well, Lada, just to be honest, Lada and I have already discussed this,
Mhm.
in terms of beefing up the legal department. And for now, she's content just with one person. I did advise her that maybe two people would be more helpful,
Mhm.
but she said she wants to, you know, start with one person.
Okay.
I mean, we
There
can-
will eventually be an active general counsel.
At some point,
Correct,
yeah.
exactly.
Yes, and then let's
In the.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
So let's
Design
put-
of the legal team. and-
I'm fine with putting a pin on this topic for now. Are we good with that?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's understood that it is part of the governance committee's role to address these things.
Yeah, of course it is.
Okay.
Of course it is.
Okay.
So the last one, which is a bit kind of like, I left the best for last, I guess.
Well, before you go on, I think initially when you started the conversation on one of the first topics
Mhm.
about some of the community concerns, you said the team is not working well together. We are actually working very well together.
Yes,
So, for
exactly.
the record,
I was
this-
surprised with this
Yeah.
comment too. Who said that?
For-
I
for
think
the-
we did not work
Okay.
well together,
Hey,
yeah.
Hey, sure, so for the record, the team is working marvelously together. Moving on.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you for that, addition.
Okay.
So, this one is a rough one. So I went to a gala a couple of days ago and randomly, met someone that I wasn't expecting to meet, Susan Rosenthal, who was the prior CEO of, and she started telling me things that were uncomfortable to hear about Shelton, and I told her, I don't want to have this conversation right now. Would you mind if I take your cell phone and talk to Lydia? And I wanted to make sure I do this in public. I think that conversation shouldn't be public, but I want to publicly state that I met her randomly. She wants to provide some information about Shelton. I don't know if she wants to come to the governance committee meeting or if she wants to do a more private meeting. I just wanted to make sure that we're all aware that, and if a conversation is to be had, I wanted to make sure that all the governance committee members are aware of it, because obviously this seems like to be related to something about
The
governance.
current posture of her litigation. It's an appeal?
Yeah, I also think you,
I think it's settled already. I think
no,
she
there is
lost,
a
right?
pending appeal.
It's still pending, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the adverse party to Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation.
Indeed. So the question that arises is, do we meet her with our counsel? Do we?
No, if she's represented by counsel, we can only address her through counsel.
Yep.
Legally. Is that legal?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Someone who's represented by a lawyer in an active litigation can only be communicated through counsel.
Understood.
Okay,
All right.
there you go.
I guess I'll communicate that. I'll email her and CCU that that's what the governance committee
And she knows.
posture is.
She knows that.
She's a lawyer.
The lawyer.
Yeah.
She's a lawyer.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right, so,
Okay, so should we move back to the bylaws, or do you want to talk about something else before that?
I think we're good. All right, let's go back to the bylaws, but you know something? We've been at this for 50 minutes. I'm gonna give everybody a 5-minute break.
Awesome.
Come back, all right? In 5 minutes, we'll start the bylaws. Thank you so much again. Let's take a break. Okay, so I'm calling the meeting back in session, and we're gonna go over the bylaws.
Awesome.
All right,
So, last we left it, we have the latest document with only with the changes that, haven't been gone over. I'm gonna duplicate this just because I'm gonna be marking them as validated once we're done. So, let me see how I do that.
And I'll shut up, but after this, a lot of you'll send to ABO for Monday, or then the final, whatever's decided here?
Yeah.
Because she said she will be able to review it
Yeah.
next week, but she wanted the clear copy
great.
once it's final.
Do we also need to send, I think we also need to send our original bylaws. I know they don't want to see the red line, and also, I think it's, I don't know if they should be looking at our enabling legislation at all, but I think, because it should be read in conjunction.
If you want to send both, I don't know that I think they're just looking at the revised to make sure
Right.
Okay.
it's legal as to their review and consideration.
Okay.
All right, we'll figure it
Pick out the appropriate things. I'll leave it to you to send out
Because
what you think is appropriate.
I hope I'll have energy to do this.
Well, we could send it out. You want to send the original as well, original and the latest?
Well,
Yes.
and I can send it too, I
Yeah,
just want to be sure
yeah.
it gets sent.
I'll share it with all the committee members right after the
Okay.
meeting, or later today.
Thank you.
Alrighty, let's start. So, we're very close, because we went through quite a lot of stuff. So one is, I'm just gonna, this is already a duplicate, I called it finalized. I'm just gonna approve this, this is literally just the date. I don't really know what this is, so I'm just gonna approve it. It's like, I don't even know what it was before, some sort of link.
Oh,
Oh, that's
the
the
bottom.
version, that's the version.
The version date.
Oh, okay,
Or to change to the current date.
got it. Done. This is just spacing. I'm surprised that there's, oh, you guys.
There's a lot of formatting, actually.
Yeah, I'm just gonna approve
Be done.
format and stuff.
There's two copies. One is
Ah, yes.
Oh,
there
you know
go.
what, one is
Okay,
the red
didn't
line,
realize
and the
that.
other is green, but
Okay.
it has comments
Got it.
too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read it out while we figure, let me make it a bit larger. Okay, is it readable on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this was removed, any committee member may designate a board member, okay, so we talked about this already, we can't designate other board members, right? So let's just approve that, accept, that's just spacing. However, the nomination must be confirmed by consensus of the board of directors of the insurance. This doesn't look like the latest, or is it?
What page are you on?
I'm just jumping around and just, stuff we already went through these stuff already before. So we went through it in the last meeting, for some reason it's still coming up.
So what are we doing?
I'm just skipping until we get the stuff that we didn't.
Is this the latest version though? But
It is,
we
it's just
wanna
spacing, it's just
approve
spacing.
something that we don't.
I'm only approving spacing, there's no changes, it's like, here's the first change, okay? So I just looked it up to see what is the ABO charter, charter?
Carter?
So it's section, Article 9, Section 2824, and the ABO are gonna,
I'm so sorry, section 9 of 20.
We're quite confused. Here,
so, okay.
Are you following me yet or no?
Okay, so I approved,
Title
I approved before the meeting all of the changes that we've reviewed in public. Someone went in and cleaned the formatting, so I'm just skipping formatting stuff. So if someone put a space, we're not gonna go over it again, obviously. So only if there's content change, so this is content change. So content change, but it's really, really minimal. In the audit committee, when we did this, you guys put in like, the article, and the section, so I'm just putting it in. I know the ABO, we're gonna review this, so hopefully if there's any,
So we shouldn't be following.
I think
until-
this,
hey, right
there's
now,
an,
there's nothing to follow.
the reference is incorrect.
Yes, it's not correct.
Do you know what the reference is?
Well, it says you
Yes,
have
what-
Article 9, Section 2824 of the authorities bylaws. That's not what you're referring to, correct?
But no, Megan, it's also in
You're
public
trying to refer
authorities law.
public
I found the
authority
same
law.
section. Mm-hmm.
Right,
So,
it should not,
what do you guys want to change here?
it should say
It should be of the public
public
authority
authority
law,
law,
instead of the authorities
not
bylaws.
bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the authority law,
In the
right?
charter, it should be, the committee shall comply with, Article 9, it's not Article 9. We should just say we should comply with public authorities law,
Okay, yeah,
section
take it out.
2420, because we are now just.
I'm changing it, just tell me what to change, I'm more than happy to change.
You can
Well,
keep
there's a couple of
everything in
things
the
you should change. You should write out authority budget office, if that's what you're referring to by ABO, if it's not referred to elsewhere before it's been, and then put maybe, if you're gonna continue to refer to ABO that way, put in parentheses or further refer to as.
Because
I mean, these are
original source, ABO models its charter based on public authorities law, so they also base it, the original sources.
Do we
on
need to
public
go to this
authorities.
level of detail?
No,
or
we
could
don't,
make-
that's why
Yeah,
I
that's
said
what I'm
last
saying.
time we
So
just.
could we just like minimize this and just say the committee should comply with authority budget office, guidelines? And just like remove all of that?
Well, isn't that what point you were trying to make here? Because we're saying we should comply with that section to assure that the board fulfills responsibilities and external audit process. So maybe we do need to get specific in reference.
It's Title 2, Section 4 of Public Authorities, paragraph 2824.
So it's not mentioned in the authority budget, but, okay, so let's, so
It's
what,
in the Public Authorities law, because there's a major section in Public Authorities that applies to all the authorities, and then we.
so I'm writing guide.
Title 2 of 2824, and it's subsection 4.
I mean, do we have to put the specific reference? Can't we just put public authorities law? Because that could
Yeah.
change, things could change continuously, and we'd have to constantly
Yeah, I
update
don't,
reference.
Article
I agree with you.
I agree as well. Okay, so we're basically removing, with the public, can you say that again, Megan?
Comply with
I would
public authorities.
Comply with public authorities law, and it should be capitalized. Public
Yes,
authorities
it's
law.
Article 9,
Yeah,
Title
Article
2.
Yeah,
I don't think we have to go that specific like Megan was saying.
Yeah, so the Article 9 is correct.
Yes, it's Article 9, it was correct.
So I was correct?
Article 9,
So should,
Title 2, because there are also subsections there. It's
Mhm.
Article 9 of Public Authorities Law, and then it's Title 2, and then it's Section 20.
so I'm just undoing just for a second. Are you saying that that was correct?
It was correct, but we don't need it.
It
That's
was-
what she's saying.
Okay.
Right, but you
Correct,
said
but we don't.
of our bylaws, that was the part that was wrong. You referred to
Yeah, okay, we
bylaws,
can,
article, not public authorities law. But if we delete the
is
reference,
so-
just put
this is so
authorities
not
law.
critical, so I'm happy to remove it. Let's
Yeah,
not
authority
obsess over it.
bylaws, these bylaws, in reference.
Okay, let's just change it. So the committee shall comply with the authority budget office guidelines?
They have a model
Sure, but
policy.
is guidelines good enough? We did,
Public authority law, is what you want to say? Yeah,
Guided by the public authorities laws, that's it.
yeah.
We can take the article, we can take the
Yeah.
section out.
public authority, public authority law?
Mm-hmm.
Laws or law?
Law.
Law.
Public
It's authorities.
law.
Authorities.
law,
Plural, it's
Yeah.
plural, public authorities law.
Okay, and then I'm removing this, and then that could be that. So the purpose of the audit committee shall be, one, to assure, this we already read earlier, so this is really just grabbed from the authority budget
We don't
office.
need
Do
to.
you want to replace your lowercase t there,
Where?
where your cursor is?
It's uppercase now.
Then put a period after law.
I think there is one. Yeah.
Looks like a comma, if it's a period, my bad.
It's a period.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll continue. That was harder than I thought it would be. Okay, so policies. This was written by I already reviewed this before, and I kind of like, we already reviewed this, so I'm just gonna skip this.
Yeah, we went almost until the.
Yeah, but I went through and did all the edits and made sure that only the stuff we didn't talk about was there, but I guess someone went in there and undid all the changes I did, which is really,
Keep on going.
yeah,
Keep on going.
okay, yeah. All right, okay, so, and there was also, we have to go to something that Conway added in a minute. Okay, so amendments, this is just adding two sections to the amendments. One is, obviously, we follow the law, but so step number one, supremacy of bylaws. These bylaws shall take precedence over any other internal documents or policies of the corporation. No policy, procedure, or document may contradict or override these bylaws. In the event that a change in policy requires that would contradict these bylaws, the bylaws must be duly amended in accordance with the procedures outlined herein. And then it's attached also with the next section, which I think is the most critical, is compliance with the law. If any provision of these bylaws is found to be in conflict with applicable federal, state, or local laws, the law shall supersede the conflicting provisions. The corporation shall comply with all relevant laws, and these bylaws shall be interpreted and applied in a manner consistent with such laws. If changes in the law occur, or if any currently in effect contradicts any provision of the law will govern, and appropriate amendments to the bylaws shall be made to ensure compliance. Does anyone have any issue with that addition? Okay?
No, I have a question
Yeah,
regarding section 2, supremacy
Yeah.
of bylaws. First of all, the bylaws cannot supersede public authorities law.
Yeah,
Internal documents.
So they pray for any other.
Internal documents.
But it's kind of understood, but that's because this is the kind of constitution of the corporation. It's
right.
by definition, by laws,
Correct.
I mean, we have.
Because when we pass resolutions, what effect do they have?
Yes,
on
and the
law?
resolution sometimes contradicted the.
And that is the whole point of this, that if you're making a resolution that contradicts the bylaws, you need to amend the bylaws.
But the only other documents should be resolutions or something called other documents.
But that's exactly the point behind it, is that any changes, any new business items that change our bylaws should actually change the bylaws. There shouldn't be floating documents that no one knows about that contradict our bylaws, which is in existence right now.
yeah, it's happening too often.
Okay, so obviously you're not objecting to that, so it's really just about like structuring it in a way that everyone has on the same page, okay? So,
Does that
okay.
make sense?
Board shall have power to make
Okay.
such
A
policies.
lot of sentences.
No, the way, we used to have this Article 9 policies. Before the amendment, the board shall have power to make it of such policies not inconsistent with law, the act, or these bylaws. I just don't want to make sure we did not say it elsewhere in some other section. It's
Well,
not repetitive.
I'll tell you why I'm pausing. I'm thinking about when we say, it's the phrasing of internal documents, right? And so
Yeah.
there's enabling legislation, that's obviously a state law,
Of course.
that would supersede our own bylaws, but
Right.
could that enabling legislation be interpreted as an internal document?
No.
No, that's the law.
That's why the compliance with the law, section 3, is above everything,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
which is obvious. Law always trumps everything else.
State or local.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you okay with that comment?
Yeah, yeah.
Lottie, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, cool. So now let's go to
I
comments.
think that's good, they'll keep us up to date.
Yes.
Yeah, I think what you would typically also see in the section 3 is, if there's a conflict of a provision of our bylaws that is brought about by an upgrade in the law, in the New York State law,
Mhm.
and a particular provision in our bylaws is then rendered moot or
Right.
obsolete,
Right.
usually contains some language in here that says, for the avoidance of doubt, the rest of the document still stays intact.
So let's see what,
Just the provision.
Can we put that in?
yeah,
Yeah,
let's
so
do
this-
this. If any provision is found to be in conflict with applicable federal, state, or law, that provision shall be, the law shall proceed as
If I can
measure.
find some sample
The
language.
current shall
Yeah.
comply with all the law.
Great, thank you.
If changes the current law or, yeah, I'll wait for that sentence.
Yeah.
We actually have this situation when we have this open meetings law, that,
This happens,
that
yeah,
there
of
was
course.
some redundant
Of course.
and provisions that, but we still comply with the open meetings law,
Right,
even
no.
though the bylaws was,
No, of course, and that makes sense, because that totally makes sense. That's why we wanted to put this in, so it's obvious that this document supersedes any internal document, never supersedes the law. The law always governs. It's like a lot of times in contracts, if one paragraph is illegal or deemed to break the law, then just that paragraph is ignored and not the full document.
Yeah, so say, if any provision of these bylaws
If any provision of these bylaws
is held invalid,
held invalid,
the remainder of the bylaws
remainder of the
shall continue in full force and
shall
effect.
continue in full force or full effect?
Full force and effect.
Force,
And effect.
effect. Love it.
Perfect.
yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Carmen.
And now let's move to comments. So, the one was compensation. I know that in the last meeting I said, could we put $1 for every board member? Conway said that doesn't seem like the right thing. He then followed up with the actual, enabling the, laws that literally say, we can't do that, so I removed it. So I'm just marking that as we removed it. So, this we just did. Second, and then there's more
That's
comments.
surprising, because, in New York State, like, the Workers' Compensation Board, right? The Board of Directors actually receive compensation.
Yeah, but for some reason, our enabling law, for some
Yeah,
reason,
you know.
yeah.
No, public authorities will.
Workers' comp,
But it's
workers'
our law, not
boards
public
are
authority.
full-time staff. It's different. Their board is a full-time job.
Yeah, I'm deleting that because that was approved and removed. There, Megan was saying, like, what is in the last meeting you said that, what happens if someone misses the meeting? So I added, and I don't know why it's not highlighted, the chairperson will warn in writing board members after missing 3 consecutive meetings.
Where are you now?
Sorry, you're right. So we're now in,
Oh, you're under.
Directors, Article 2 Directors. We're jumping around now because we're final touches, I apologize. So we're in Article 2 Directors, Section 8. So Section 8, we added, remember, actually you added this on,
Page number, right? It's page 3. Page 3, but, and I'm using the title page,
What
there's
is
a couple
it?
of pages.
Oh, under resignation.
right, so Megan was asking in the last meeting that it was a bit too open-ended and she wanted to make sure that there's a bit more structure to it. So this is what I suggest, and obviously we could change it if you guys feel differently, that the chairperson will warn in writing a board member after missing 3 consecutive meetings, which sounds reasonable, that way they're not surprised. The chairperson would communicate officially to the board and the governor that the board member has resigned, like, do we say that after 5 consecutive, do I need to repeat that again?
I also think with 5 and 3, we need to spell out.
I guess,
Like 5.
yeah, it doesn't really clarify
Oh,
my
in
question.
word. Yeah, please.
If it's the after missing 5 consecutive meetings, does that, like, intentionally missing 5, I've resigned without having to notify someone, or am I being terminated after 5, whether or not I intended to resign, I guess is the way that first sentence is written is confusing.
It's a good question, because like, we don't have the authority to fire anyone, we could only recommend. The governor has the authority to fire. A board member could resign on their own accord at any point.
But like,
so,
say I miss 5, absent an emergency, I'm ill, whatever, absent that, I miss 5, I'm automatically resigned. That doesn't, I don't think that,
reasonable.
I think resign is the wrong
without
word
any
for that.
justification. What do you want to rate it as? Like,
I don't know.
without
I just,
justification?
I think this might, now that I think about it more, this might actually conflict with state law. To your point you just made.
Right.
Like, we can't.
We can't physically fire anyone.
Maybe we change it to the.
can recommend, the chairperson
Inform.
can recommend.
Yeah. Pardon me? So any, so this will be, any board member, after missing, consecutively without communication.
Well, I think resign with notice to the chairperson should stay. I think that's fine. If a board member wants to resign, they can notify the chairperson in writing, and that's fine. It's this after missing 5 consecutive meetings part that needs to be clarified better.
Okay. The chairperson will warn in writing board members after missing 3 consecutive meetings. That sounds just reasonable, just to remind people I don't think that would happen, but just if it does. The chairperson would communicate so this is what we want to change, right? The chairperson would recommend to the governor,
removal
the termination.
From the board?
Yeah. Recommend.
And can we not use would? I mean, can we not use would? Seems very permanent. There could be circumstances. Maybe say the chairperson may.
May?
Yeah.
I think may is too soft though, like, because
I know,
if someone wasn't there for 6 months.
I don't want to be too firm in this. There could be extenuating circumstances for all of this. Like, I don't want to be too firm in someone's is ill, someone has a family issue that prevented them from doing something. I don't want to be too harsh in that recommendation.
And this actually never happens in reality.
No, the chair, do we want to just put it may and just see what happens? Because this is just like a guideline more than.
If what we're talking about is.
As the chairperson, I would prefer may.
May. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with May. Like, end of the day, what are the chances of this happening, and why would we want to keep them?
Well, I just want to say that my cousin is on the public authority in Westchester, and he got cancer, and he was in cancer treatments, but he was also able to let the public authority know that he wasn't going to be able to participate in board meetings. So, but he did get cancer, and now after his whole whatever ordeal, he's back on the board of that public authority. So
I think you have to communicate to the governor, so the
Yeah.
governor knows what's going on, and maybe we change the recommendation to shall communicate to the governor for consideration of,
termination.
Removal. I would not say terminate. I'd say removal.
Removal,
Consider removal or something, but I think it's mandatory that we tell the
The
governor.
chairperson-
She's not blindsided or she's not blindsided.
The person, I don't think it should be May. It should, like, if you didn't communicate for 6 months, you should let the governor know that they didn't come up.
I leave it that way and change the other.
Yeah, okay, and make it softer on the other end, yeah.
It really is about
Shall-
your functioning board and.
Shall recommend to the governor appropriate action. We could leave it completely open.
Or even just notify the governor's office for consideration.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Just notify, notify the governor's office. Notify and then it's completely open. That way you're not like firing people. You could also say this is why they're not here. So it's just saying like, someone's not around, I'm communicating that they're not around.
Right.
The person, so, let me see. Let me just approve this to see like how it looks like, because it's hard to read this. Okay, so let's do this. So any resignation, any member of the board may resign upon written notice to the chairperson. The chairperson will warn in writing board members after missing 3 consecutive meetings. The chairperson shall notify the governor. We probably need to finish that sentence in some.
After 5.
In those occurrences? Or can I say that? Is that in those occurrences? So like, if they quit, then they need to notify, which I'm assuming you guys do anyways, and if they stop communicating, then, okay. We're all okay with that? Awesome. All right, so back to comments. So let me just, so this was for,
Oh, wait, 1
Okay,
second.
so this
Three
is for
meetings
section
in general or 3 consecutive meetings?
Consecutive,
I think we said consecutive, right?
yeah,
It
consecutive.
doesn't say that, I don't think. Did you?
3 consecutive, yeah.
Oh, you did. Okay, sorry. It was off to the side on my view. Okay, keep going.
It should say consecutive.
Meetings, plural.
Meetings, yeah, SF
Yeah,
meetings,
meetings.
consecutive meetings, yeah.
Okay. I think we should do, 3 consecutive, board meetings or any meetings, because it could be also,
Board.
committees, right? So consecutive board meetings.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now, this one is gonna be a heated one, but whatever, we've been through worse. Conway is recommending adding a new communications with the public section. So I'll read them out, and then I guess we'll have a conversation and decide if we just keep it or if we modify anything in it.
What page you on now?
We're in the same page, we're just moving to section 9. So communication with the public. So I'll read it out and then we'll have a conversation. With the exception of the chairperson, any member of the board of directors.
No, it's not in
Wait,
this
no, not
copy.
in here.
Yeah.
It goes to the
There are
next
2
page.
copies.
The next page.
It's in this copy, but it's not in the.
Yes,
not
yes,
in the
because
original.
the red line we printed from Martha's twice the revision.
Margie, just look on the screen, it's up there on the screen if you, it's,
Okay.
But in clean version, it's here.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I see it.
let me, I'm gonna read it out and then we'll have a conversation. So communicating with the public. So with the exception of the chairperson, any member of the board of directors appearing before a government body, private body, or otherwise making a statement to any person outside of the corporation, whether verbally or in writing, including but not limited to email, whatever that is, yeah, text messages or otherwise,
Young kids, I think.
shall affirmly state that such member is not speaking on behalf of the board of directors, when making such statement unless duly authorized to do so by the board, except for quoting the exact language of board resolution. No member of the board of directors, with the exception of the chairperson, shall publicly represent the board's position to any person outside of the corporation unless duly authorized to do so by the board.
Okay, so Conway,
Yeah,
what do you mean exactly by this and why are you recommending this?
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I took this almost verbatim from other public authorities, after they had, the ABO has a website that shows like censures and the like of public authorities that have gotten in trouble through board directors making public statements without board authorization. Part of the censure that ABO recommended was this language here, shows basically, if we're talking publicly, we should be authorized by the board to talk publicly. But if we're not, conversely, we shouldn't be making representations on behalf of REAC if we're not authorized to do so. So pretty straightforward concept, keeps the REAC out of trouble.
So I guess my concern is when somebody comes up to me on the street, and people come up to me on the street, I can't talk to them unless I have an official resolution in front of me, so I can state to them verbatim what the resolution says, because this seems kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to be that literal. I think,
Well, that's what it says, right?
Yeah.
if you're making a representation on behalf of REAC.
Well, they'll ask me. They'll
Yeah.
ask, everybody comes up to me
Yeah.
and
Did
asks
REAC
me.
approve this? What did you guys vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's going on? I mean, people have been talking to me, especially in this bus crisis, right? So, what's going on with the buses? And I was like, well, I heard that there were supposed to be 2 buses going on this week, and I think that's going on. That would conflict with this,
Right.
right?
And I want to add that, like, that's, obviously, we shouldn't be walking around and saying, the board thinks this, the board thinks that. So like, and I think also my signature in my email, because I am the verbose communicator, I make sure that it's clear that I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a resident board member. And by the way, I reached out, when I created this, because I know it's about me, so let's just take out the.
Or me, actually.
Oh, right, yeah, about us, right?
This is about you.
Yeah, of course not.
It's interesting that you think it's about you.
I think it's about me. No, I was
I was gonna say, I mean,
I-
this just puts everything on me, this statement, but okay.
Yeah.
So what I would like to say is this,
Thanks,
is that,
Conway.
when I originally started communicating, because I had to start communicating, it was because Gerald asked me to do it, and it seemed like I just had to. If it's just because there was such level of, I don't want to say a negative word, of miscommunication between RIAC and the public, that often I just had to step up and speak. I understood that I cannot speak on behalf of RIAC. Originally, when I started speaking in July of last year, I was told you can't speak on behalf of RIAC. I think Ruth Ann said that to me before, Megan, you joined. And I changed my language to make sure that no one thinks that I do. And I haven't seen other scenarios of, I think it's important for us to speak in the public, but one thing that I find concerning here, one is like, writing is one thing. I think I have a little bit of an issue with adding more powers to the chairperson, because the chairperson has incredible amount of powers. They don't need more powers. And making the chairperson be able to speak on behalf of the board without the board authorizing them to do that is problematic. And we already do that today. So for example, when we started the
Well, no,
investigation,
they have to do that.
when we started the investigation without the board's consent, the chairperson with the REACT team communicated that the board decided to start an investigation. The board did not decide to start an investigation. Howard Bolivy and the chair decided to start an investigation, which is fair, they're allowed to. And maybe they're allowed to do it through the audit committee. But I don't want it to be perceived that Lydia approved it, I approved it, that Dr. Melamed approved it, that Faye approved it, because if you ask any one of us, we never approved it. So I don't think she already has that power, and any chairperson would have that power. So adding more, if you want to just say that the resident board members, I'm completely fine with that. So that way we're not even talking about the chairperson, because the chairperson already has those levels of control. So if your main concern is that resident board members, when they're communicating, it's clear that they're communicating as themselves and not as the full organization, there's probably something to that.
Yeah, I mean, so of the two provisions here, one says, the first one is essentially make sure that you give a disclaimer, and the second one is no talking without the authorization. Perhaps there's a middle ground here where we can modify the language to make it such that if there's, you don't take away the practical effect of being able to give updates for people stopping you on the street, and the like.
I used to always start with, well, it was my understanding, we talked
Right,
about this at
right.
the board meeting and blah, 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 but I could never quote the exact resolution.
Yeah, with regard to the chairperson issue, my understanding, and maybe Megan can speak to this better, is that the Department of Community and Housing Renewal, given that they are on our board by statute, and that person has to be able to speak with other agencies within the state on behalf of RIAC. And so that's why I put that carve out in there. For
That's the thing, so let's just write resident. So we're very clear that
Yeah,
who we're
that's
writing
what
it for.
especially since- Right, so I, to Conway's point, so given that we are the chairperson of Roosevelt Island Corporation, in addition to being the commissioner of housing across the state, we do have to wear different hats. And in that conversation, sometimes we have to take one hat off, put another one on. I think it needs to be expressly clear. We speak before many governmental, private bodies on a regular basis. So I think that it should remain as it was written.
Yeah, I also agree because, and first of all, we don't distinguish, we put this into signature resident board member, but the law does not distinguish. It's a member of the board.
I'm fine with any member.
We can say with the exception of the chairperson or two ex officio board member, any other board member, because division of budget also speaks, of course.
Right.
So I agree with the language, and I don't think we should put resident because there's no defined term of resident board member.
Exactly.
We already have two ex officios, and everyone else is just a board member with understanding they are residents of Roosevelt Island.
Right, and aren't there two seats where a person doesn't have to be a resident to be on the board in addition to the commissioner and budget director? It's not a requirement?
Yeah, we only have residents, either two ex officios, so board member is already, except for ex officios, that will be by definition.
And then also,
already resident.
to Lydia's point about being approached on the street, I think if someone were to ask you about, hey, what's going on with the bus situation, and I mean, without saying the board is saying this, the board is saying that, you can have a conversation and say, they're working on it, and this is what I believe is happening, and you know what, and hopefully, a notice will come out explaining the situation. You don't have to speak specifically to like what is actually happening, whether we're talking to the MTA or not. Like you can just say like we're working on it, and you don't have to do it as speaking for the board. It's like I think that's taking this very literally.
Thing is, they,
More about if you're out there literally speaking as the board and saying the board decided this, the board decided that. I don't think that's really what's going to happen in your conversation, especially if it's a situation like the red bus.
Yeah, and technical public gets the update during the public sessions when the board discusses in an open forum. So if public wants to know, they just need to come to the board meeting and hear an update. But of course, I understand, yes, I understand that the real life, all residents.
okay, wait, hold on a second. One person speak, because we can't get this all on
It's a
whatever.
unique situation here, it's a small town. When these guys who are board members are
Right.
definitely stopped by people all the time. It's a little bit different than if you're on the MTA board. These are your neighbors,
Right.
you know, so.
And I think the public expects for
Absolutely.
them,
They ask
To
for
be
clarification, like you can't
accountable.
say just when a notice will come out, because lots of times they're saying, hey, I didn't understand what they were talking about, what does that mean? You can't really say, what are you gonna say?
This is what I recommend, and obviously we could undo what I just did. So with the exception of the chairperson, any member of the board of directors appearing before governmental body, private body, or otherwise making a statement to any persons outside of the corporation in writing, and I left all those extras, shall affirmly state that such member is not speaking on behalf of the full board.
Does that work for you, Conrad? Because I understand.
I think the verbally needs to stay only for the appearing before the governmental bodies, if that's like we're a hearing or something.
Yes.
And not necessarily a one-on-one conversation. Verbally covers a lot.
No, but even when you're talking with government bodies, it's that you don't start a conversation saying, hi, I'm Ben, I'm speaking on behalf of a board member and not on behalf of a full corporation. Definitely, I could see if you want to add a language that says
That
that board
could be a
members should
scenario,
not
though.
present themselves as speaking for the full board, that's fine. So, we could say that board members should not represent themselves as speaking on behalf of the full board.
Well, that was the first provision.
Stop, you have to,
That's why I feel like the first one is all that's needed.
Add the word individual board members, because it's.
Yes, so I
Board is
would,
different from an individual member.
I think to split the baby here, I would restore whether verbally or, you don't need to put full board, just keep it as board of directors. Restore the rest of that sentence, that first sentence, and you can keep the second sentence deleted. I think that might.
So you're saying basically put this back in? Let me put it in so
Yeah,
that
so
Just verbally.
put that back in, put this back in, and then I think you can keep that last sentence deleted.
So you're saying, okay, so let's read this out.
The board means.
Let me just read it out before I agree. So with the exception of the chairperson, any member of the board of directors appearing before a government body, private body, or otherwise making a statement to any person outside of the corporation, whether verbally or in writing, I'm not comfortable with shall firmly state that such member is not speaking on behalf of the full board, because like you shouldn't start every sentence saying you're not speaking on behalf of the full board.
yeah.
But you maybe shall not state that they're speaking on behalf of the full board, that's fine, or, shall not state
that they're speaking on,
that,
Shall not make statements on behalf of the full board without their consent.
This is very open.
Yeah, maybe she doesn't say, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Senate, what is she?
Well, sometimes she'll say, I'm speaking as a,
Right.
individual, and,
But-
yeah.
When she
Yeah,
doesn't
I mean,
say that, how do
right,
you
because
do it?
this is very, like, common, when we, whenever I do a lot of public speaking, my company here and elsewhere, when I was on Wall Street, they were very adamant about, make sure at the very beginning of your panel discussion, you
Right.
say, you are not speaking on behalf of Morgan Stanley.
And frankly, I sometimes say that too, I'm
Right.
not speaking on.
I'm here in my individual capacity.
No. Which I think is important, but we are, when we speak with the public, we're not doing this for fun, we're doing it as part of our work as members of this board. So we can't speak
Yes,
on
but it's
behalf
not,
of the
this
full.
isn't specific to just speaking to the public. This is specific to speaking to other outside entities beyond just the individuals.
All outside entities, whenever we're speaking with them, we're doing that as board members, we're not doing that out of fun.
Yeah,
but this,
because let me,
okay, stop. One person.
because if you run this through this conclusion, take a worst case scenario example where we say, somebody comes down the street and says, hey, what's going on with X? And I say, well, REAC is doing X, Y, and Z. That person then later, on that basis of my statement, brings a lawsuit against Roosevelt Island and said, well, the board represented to me on the street on Tuesday that this is the position of REAC. Now, is that highly unlikely? Probably. But what we're trying to do is hedge off any unnecessary liability to Roosevelt Island.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I get it.
I get
The vernacular CYA.
Yeah. No, but that's exactly, and I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
No board member should walk out and say, REAC is going to do 1, 2, 3, 4,
Mhm.
without the approval of the whole board. But a board member should be able to say, as a board member, I believe that we should do 1, 2, 3, 4, which is different than saying that REAC decided to do 1, 2, 3.
Which you can totally do and make it clear, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, but this is my understanding.
But yeah, no, but I take it a different way around of saying, as long as you don't go out and say REAC decided 1, 2, 3, and you say, I think that we should do 1, 2, 3, there's a difference between those. But let's see if I think we're in agreement, let's just figure out the right language that doesn't, because at the end of the day, the chairperson could always recommend to the governor the removal of any board member if they're unhappy with them. So the repercussion of this, in the end of the day, is if the chairperson is unhappy, they go to the governor and say, hey, this community member needs to be removed. Okay, so with the exception of the chairperson.
And also, I think as board members in your capacity, you have a duty to the public to provide public
Of
service.
course.
That's why we're here, so.
Yeah.
No, because you do this.
That's the, issue here. How-
Absolutely, and that's why the whole,
Mhm.
the residents, the board members are residents.
Yeah,
You
and-
know, for the state.
And to Lydia's point, if someone came to you yesterday and said, what's going on with the bread buses?
Exactly.
And Lydia said, well, we got another new minibus and it's gonna start going into operations tomorrow. And let's say it doesn't go into operations tomorrow and get sued, it's part of our work. That's what we have lawyers and when we have law firms. I think we need to provide this service.
But
Can I offer a different scenario? Just,
Hold on a second, no, I'm just trying to get Megan, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to offer a different scenario that, we're all taking this item as someone came up to me on the street and wanted to talk about Roosevelt Island item. But what about if one of the resident board members has a personal issue that they wanted to discuss before, say, city council or the community board or something like that? They need to disclose that they are not representing the board of directors in that conversation with that body.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah, I
not
agree with you.
like,
But-
I have an issue,
but
my
you're
building,
talking about
blah,
public
blah, blah,
meetings.
something.
Yeah.
But as
Agreed.
and I'm coming to you as a resident and not a resident board member, like that needs to be disclosed.
I completely agree with you on that matter. So we need to figure out how to add that in. So it's not about any conversation you have with any person. It's about if you go to like a committee and you're presented as a board member, anything you say sounds like you're saying it on behalf of the
Well,
folks
that's
of Brady.
especially the case, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with
in
you.
that scenario.
So let's see, how do we add this in? So let's see if we agree with this language, and we'll figure out what we add in.
I need clarification on what private body means, because a private body to me is
Right.
anybody that approaches me on the street.
This is all in writing. Oh, I don't think it should be verbally. I think it should be writing this section in general.
It also says any person.
No, I think
outside the
verbally,
board.
if you're gonna go to a public hearing and you're gonna speak out against, I don't know, taxes being
So it's
raised.
not private body, so,
So it's governmental body, government agencies.
If there's a Tesla
private
hearing
body.
for a building on the
Private
island.
217, yes,
Yeah.
public teacher
No,
conference.
but that's not private.
Yeah,
The PTA. If
Yeah, like the PTA is a private body, like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
what does appearing mean? That means you were invited to speak, right? This is not just a private conversation. So when you're saying appearing, that means you were invited to appear. So this is not us having a conversation with someone casually.
So, but the other one is making a statement to any persons outside the corporation.
Appearing, that means you were invited. It's not that you're invited as a board member. And maybe that's what needs to be clear. With the executive chairs and any board of the directors, appearing as a board member.
But the otherwise
Well, you
making a
wouldn't be-
statement
well, you
to any
wouldn't be
Are
person.
you representing or you're not representing the
No.
board necessarily?
Well, if you're appearing as a board member, then this seems all correct. But if you're
You
just,
shouldn't be appearing as a board member anywhere.
no, but like if you're invited to CBAs. you're
Yes,
appearing as a
Yeah,
board member.
because, well, Crick would just send
Yeah.
me an invitation.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course. Or on all the public events that happen.
You're
throughout
there
the-
in your private capacity.
That's not private capacity.
But he invited us there as board members.
We were used to invite REAC board members to
Yes.
present the budget and stuff, they were clearly appearing on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it was
Right, but-
obvious to everybody they were appearing on behalf of the.
As a behalf of the board member,
Right,
exactly.
and the board knew it,
Exactly.
so they could represent them.
That I'm okay with if we're leaving it verbally. So with the exception of the chairperson, any member of the board of directors appearing as a board member before a government body, private body, or otherwise making statements to any person outside of the corporation, whether verbally or in writing, including blah, 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 shall not state that they are representing the full board of directors, or we could leave the original sentence if we're saying, if we're putting that in, then this could be the original, really. So either or.
You want to say that again? What?
So as long as our scope is very clear, that the scope is that if a board member is appearing before a government body, a private body, basically they're invited to CB8 or they're invited to the whatever committees are out there, they're representing REAC whenever they say something. So they have to be very careful that if they say something on behalf of REAC, that they say something that is actually a written statement, or that they declare that they're saying it as a board member and not as the full board. Yeah, that's fine.
So restore the last two lines there, and I think that works.
Reject.
Yeah, but I'm still concerned about the
Yeah, we'll
making
read
a
it
statement
again.
to any person outside the corporation. That's what I'm concerned about.
So let's see it one second, let's read it out. So, no, but it's not any person. If it says person, it should body, which means,
No, it does say, it says or.
yeah, no, this needs to be removed, yeah. I think this part needs to be removed.
Are you okay with that, Conway?
Like, basically, this needs to be removed.
I don't
So
think so. I
basically,
think
we're saying that.
it captures all of the possible scenarios. I think it has to stay. Because what if somebody calls a meeting, a one-on-one meeting with somebody, and you have conversation with, that's a person? It should stay.
Meeting, because we're talking about appearances, we're not talking about any person, so I completely agree with Lydia that it needs to be clear that we're talking about appearances, we're in the same sentence still. So with the exception of the chairperson, any member of the board of directors appearing as a board member before a government body, private body, or otherwise making a statement to any, in any meeting? In any meeting outside the corporation, whether verbally or in writing?
I'll go, keep going, I'll reserve.
Shall not state that such board member, so that we said we're undoing this, reject replacement, shall affirmly state that such member is not speaking on behalf of the full board of directors. Yeah,
Do we need full board?
of the board,
The board of
You can remove full.
well, because they are stating it as a board member, they're not doing it as a private capacity, they're doing it as a perspective over REAC, not as the, official actions of REAC.
Well, it's not on behalf of the board of directors.
No, they're on behalf of a board member as part of their official capacity, but they're not speaking on behalf of the full board.
Well, what we're saying is full is redundant, because we already defined board of directors up
right.
above.
And appearing as a board member, oh, okay, yeah, you're right, okay, agreed.
And if you're having a meeting, aren't you representing yourself on behalf of REAC? That's what I would assume.
Or as a board member at
As a board
REAC,
member,
one of the
yeah.
two, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, right, which is why this is so important in language, right? You have to say, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board of
I'm a board
directors
member,
unless
but
you are
I'm
authorized to speak on behalf.
Oh, that's actually a really good point, unless authorized by the chairperson. Where do we add that?
Unless authorized by the board, not necessarily.
Unless authorized by the board or the chair, how do,
Or the chair.
unless duly authorized to do so by the board or its chairperson.
Okay, I like that part.
Okay,
I would, now going back up to where you put meetings.
Yeah.
I think that might be too limiting, and I'm thinking of statements to the press specifically. That's not a meeting, but it's gonna be somebody outside the corporation, which could be just as damaging, in fact, more so damaging, when speaking to the
Statement
press.
to the press.
Yeah.
We're making a statement to the press.
statements of press, no?
Do you say media these days?
Yeah, media.
Well, don't put it there, put it after meeting, if you're you're gonna put, if
Yeah.
you're gonna fill out
The
press,
to the press.
like, put it
I would
after,
put media, I think, or just
Yeah.
right, because.
Meeting.
meeting,
Some are considered press, some aren't.
or communication with the press outside of the corporation. Any meeting
Communication
outside
to
the corporation
media.
Or communication with the press.
The media, you
Yeah,
said, right?
Yeah.
Media and to the press.
Which is member of the press, David is.
Yeah, that,
Funny how
okay.
that turned out.
We're all happy?
I think that, let me see.
I mean, David Stone has approached me.
And you could always just start with saying, I'm speaking as a board member, not as behalf of the full
Yeah,
board.
and
Absolutely, very important to do it that way.
Yeah.
and he'll say, I think this, and I don't care.
So, just get rid of the apostrophe though, right,
Apostrophe,
for its chair.
Yeah, that's right.
where's that?
It's the last,
Oh,
last
Yeah.
one.
it's not a chair. Okay, so,
I
let's,
think.
The board.
Okay.
all right, let me just approve this and then we'll
Yes, yeah, yeah.
approve. Okay, back to comments. I don't think there's much more comments. I think there was just a few just moving things around. So let me just, mark this as done. Resolve.
Okay, let's read it again, just so we have
Oh, sure.
clean reading.
Okay. So with the exception of the chairperson, any member of the board of directors appearing as a board member before a government body, private body, or otherwise making a statement in any meeting outside of the corporation or that sentence is weird. Or communicates with the media? Because I think it's like more.
Communications is fine, I think. Making any statements in any meeting outside the corporation or communications with the media, it sounds fine to me.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, okay. Whether verbally or in writing, I'm skipping that bit, shall firmly state that such member is not speaking on behalf of the board of directors when making such statements unless duly authorized to do so by the board or its chairperson.
I have I'm so sorry.
What's wrong?
I have a problem. That's a very long paragraph and it's just one
It's
sentence.
one thing.
At least we got to all on the same page.
It should be cut into sections, I understand that we just came to conclusions, but it's a long sentence and
Your English teacher would be
Yeah,
appalled.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna continue because I don't wanna just spend the next half hour editing it. But if substantially it's the same and you wanna change the structure of it,
yeah, but it's
Yeah.
understood, but just a comment.
as long as the meaning doesn't change, then we're good. Okay, so this is, I think Conway, you asked to move this, so I think it was moved from, so this,
Up to the first section here.
so this, do we wanna go through it? It's just literally moving something that was there to a different section.
I'm okay with that.
Right, so I'm just like,
Moving.
resolved, it was just moving things around.
It's fine.
Um,
Whatever you want, doesn't care.
And this one is interested directors. So this is also Conway, you added in what that means, which is awesome. So-
Yeah.
So interested directors, any director having an interest in any entity involved in a matter coming before the board shall make a good faith disclosure said interest, and 2, recuse himself. It's funny how sometimes we do herself or himself and themselves. So, from any deliberation on voting on the matter to avoid appearance of impropriety, for the purpose of this section, an interest shall mean the ability to exercise control or to receive direct financial benefit from the entity. Yeah, that sounds very good.
Okay.
Okay, everyone's good with this?
Sure.
Okay. Oh,
Does there have to be any dollar values to that as well?
I think that's a good question.
Because I think the ABO has anything over $15,000 or something.
I think we're better off just like, if you have a financial interest to declare it, because correct me if I'm wrong, Lada, but from what I knew is, for example, when I was on the board of the Roosevelt Island Disabled Association, when I was appointed by the governor, they told me you might be able to stay, you might not. It will really depends on the general counsel of RIAC who will review it and decide if you could stay or you can't. So I think anytime you have that type of issue, you just have to get clearance from the general counsel if they think that it's not an issue.
Yes, if you
Right?
think there's some conflict of interest.
Then you reach
you have
out.
to disclose it, there's a form that you need to complete, and many board members, of course, they live on the island,
Right.
they participate in other
Of course.
island organizations,
Yeah.
but if you are like some treasurer for other island organization, you need to disclose it, and it's not the fact that maybe you need to give up this position, because if we vote on something that involves your organization, or you need to recuse yourself, but you definitely need to bring it to general counsel's attention and fill out this conflict of interest form.
But when you were on the Disabled Association, you didn't have any, you weren't on the board, right?
I was on the board.
Oh, you were on the
Yeah,
board.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
So
makes
then I had to step down from the
Got
board.
it, yeah, I had to step down from
Yeah.
the board, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was
Yeah,
reasonable.
Yeah, but if you're not on the board, you could stay.
Yeah.
You could stay as a member.
No, now I volunteer with the food pantry and stuff like that, but without any controls. Yeah.
Yeah, same with me. I
Yeah.
volunteer with Main Street Theater, but I'm not on the board anymore.
So this is, I wanted to bring this up because I know that we've removed this, because like obviously Megan said that it's wrong to do it, and I think like Otsoladas said it would be wrong. We talked about like adding like a public, what was it called? Public,
We have public
public
comment.
session. So the question is, no, I know, but we were trying to like create like a more of a dialogue, and it kind of connects to like board members shouldn't speak on behalf of the full board, but the public should have a way to interact with board members in a controlled environment where you have a legal there and the full board is there. So I think it is important for us to add it in some way, but it's a little, I'm thinking literally just adding a sentence that says that the board shall hold at least 2 public sessions throughout the year, or whatever, but just figure out where do we put it.
But actually, we have this disclaimer, we have 8 scheduled board meetings every year, and sometimes we have special board meetings.
Right.
And in the agenda and the notice, we have the language, we have the public comment session, so we have 8
No,
already.
we're not talking about public comments, it's completely different. We're talking about
No
dialogue.
interaction.
Yeah.
One-way
Interaction.
conversation.
And my recommendation.
Okay, so.
My recommendation that we do this in the end of a meeting, so that way if Megan doesn't want to stay, or budget doesn't want to stay, that we just leave like 30 minutes, not in every meeting, but maybe twice a year, where we just stay behind and we answer to the public. Anyone objects to just figuring out, just putting that as a
But
sentence?
Marcy also had this idea that, I think it's a great idea, the months we don't have.
Like in the
board
summer,
meetings
right?
scheduled, we can have like a town hall.
Yeah, we did have town halls many times before on certain subjects, and we
Right.
adjusted an open dialogue with the public.
Yeah, so I think we shouldn't, I think it should be an option for us to schedule a town hall. just so
I
the
think that
public
that's
can-
fine to schedule the town hall if you want to do that, but I would hold on putting it in the bylaws yet and see how it works out.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think
I-
let's work it, let's figure out
Like
how to
next
put it in.
year, if it worked out and the process seems to be a benefit and people are showing up, we can make an edit next year to codify it, but I would hold on putting it in the bylaws quite yet.
I wouldn't wait a year, but I don't mind not doing it right now, but I think we could come up with something simple, such as extending meetings, so that way, if you want to stay, you could, if you don't want to, you don't, so we don't create another meeting just for that, but maybe like on certain dates where we know that we're not really packed.
I'm guessing you guys are gonna have a lot of executive sessions.
Probably so, yeah.
Lines up,
yeah.
and don't you have to stay after?
Yeah.
What we used to do is the day before a board meeting, we'd have a thing called Conversations with the
Oh,
Board.
wow.
And any board member who wanted to come could, and you talked about what was on the agenda
Mhm.
for the board meeting, and you did an interaction to get people's ideas on what they thought about the agenda item.
So let's not table it, but let's have this conversation offline. We'll figure out the right language and where we add it in, and how much do we want to, like, we definitely want more than what we have now. Right now, we're at 0, so let's figure out what that is, and we'll work together. We're not adding anything right now. I'll leave this as a comment, and we'll remove it just when we send it to ABO, but let's figure out how do we integrate this in a way that's,
But open meetings law defines open meetings as a public body. We are a public governing body.
Sure.
Is board of directors,
Yeah.
not the members of public. So it doesn't fall under open meetings law. It's public session, whatever, it's
what-
not a part of the open meetings
so
law.
we're not talking about open meeting law right now. We're talking.
It's open meetings law.
That's just because it was there, but we're removing it from there. What we're saying is we need to figure out where to add it in, nothing to do with open.
No,
meeting
open
law.
meetings law, we need to keep and put into the
I
appropriate
think you were under
session.
public session before.
Yeah, it was in public session.
Yeah.
So open meetings law, we are talking about meetings of this public body, which is board of
Did we move
directors.
a topic already? Like, we're talking about, public,
Because we're talking about meetings of the corporation, and these are subject to open meetings law.
oh,
But
so,
you can still have an exchange.
yeah, so like what I would say to
Yeah,
that
so
is,
even-
whatever we come
Well,
up with,
Claudia's
which we're not
point,
doing
even
right
if you
now.
go to town hall, Even if you have a town hall and you call it that, and you have a quorum of board members, it's still considered subject to open meetings law. That's.
Of course it would be, and that's fine.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's.
nothing wrong with that. So we'll come up with the formula. We're not doing it right now. We'll then send it to the Committee of Open Governance to review it, to make sure that they're okay with it as well. And once we find the language, then we'll invite in a future governance committee meeting to update another section of the bylaw. No big deal.
I think you
We're
have to
not in a
delete
rush to add it.
Public session.
Say that again. You're going in and out. Megan?
In section 5, order of business, it just says public session now. You should delete that. That's what I was.
Yeah, we're gonna delete it now, and we're gonna bring this up as part of that, as what we're saying. So I'm marking this as resolved, although it's not
And
resolved.
just a thought, can't we just have ad hoc meetings, under obviously open meetings law, without even defining it here? Let's say, ad hoc meeting that we need to have a meeting because
Right.
there are particular issues came up, like in the summer.
Right,
Well, we have special board meetings.
Yeah, exactly.
right,
We
Yeah.
don't have to
That's
put
with
this.
the board, she's talking public, with the
Right.
public there,
right.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, we
Yeah, under
usually
open
have
meetings law,
to,
yeah.
no, under open meetings law, it's not a public meeting including public, because open meetings law says the public has the right to observe and listen. It doesn't give it doesn't prescribe the public, it doesn't allow, the law doesn't say that the public has the right to participate.
We're not saying that.
We're not
We're
saying
not
either
saying that.
participate.
So I'm
or
gonna say a
participate.
sentence, and then if you want, you could contradict it. If not, we could look deeply into it later.
Mhm.
I believe, I'm saying that with in the beginning, is that if we have a completely only online meeting and invite all the board members and make a public announcement saying this is not a meeting, whatever it's called, the normal meeting, but it's a conversation with the public. We're not deciding on any policies here. We're only listening to the public and having an open dialogue with the public.
We can't do
I
that.
believe that would be appropriate, but we could come up with that later.
Why can't we do
Because it
this?
violates open meetings law.
I'm not sure if it does. I'm not sure that it
Yes,
does.
you cannot have any video conferencing with all the board members and constitute a quorum. No, you have to have physical presence,
So
certain members.
technically, we could have training all the board members together.
Well, hold on.
Training, we can't.
Wait, let her finish what she said.
Yeah.
Keep on going, Lana. You can't have it because,
Because open meetings law does not allow this, when the quorum of members is assembled or present, there's a way to have the whole meeting. You have to be physically present, and only certain members can participate remotely, because we have this video conferencing policy, which is a part of the open meetings law, section 103, C, if I'm not mistaken. And if you're discussing public business, that makes it a public meeting of the public body, no matter how you call it. If the quorum is present, that's it. You cannot bypass open meetings law by calling it something differently. But you can have town halls for certain specific, like roads, for certain purpose, or boroughs. That's a different thing. But if we have the same agenda,
But
there's no
those
difference
meetings,
between.
like, the board members can't speak, they're on mute, because of the way it was set up, right? The last two roadways,
Right.
sessions we had.
Mhm.
Does the open meetings law prohibit people from answering questions during a meeting?
Absolutely not.
No.
It's up
Then-
to authority.
then
We
how
can
is it
do this.
different?
Yes, we
How
can
is
do
that
this.
different from what Ben is suggesting? We have a meeting,
That's
the
right.
board members will be there.
You can have.
And
It's
you're
advertised.
discussing public business that makes your,
We makes it subject to the open meetings law, which does not prohibit an interaction.
which means it should be a recording and all
It'll be
notices
recorded,
and-
we'll do all that.
Just as we're doing it.
But
Yeah.
the only difference will be
Yes,
there'll
because
be an
Ben suggested
interaction.
doing this online completely. That's
All right,
what
we
my
can do it
response
online
was to
completely. We
online
can-
meeting.
Oh.
That's the church.
I'm not talking anymore. I'm just waiting for this
No,
we'll figure it out later. There's no,
Meeting when they have
It's
all the
just like the board meeting, the only difference is they will
I
allow
know.
people to interact.
whatever we
okay.
decide, there is a committee that literally all they do is open meeting law. So whatever we come up with, we're gonna send it to them to see if they want us to tweak anything in the language. We're not gonna add anything right now anyways. So we'll come up with whatever draft, and then we'll listen to them and make sure that we're complying with every single thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying the corporation cannot do this. We can't have it, but it should be in the format of open meetings law.
100% that we need to do it in a way that's compliant
not
with open
online.
meeting law, 100%.
okay.
And we'll figure it out later. We'll
All
figure
right.
out what the formula is.
2:01, we're taking a 5-minute break.
Oh, good, I need a break. Good. We're doing a 5-minute break, everyone, okay? Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah, or,
all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna mute. Okay, we're back into order. So
Okay,
I think we're gonna, are we finished
We're-
with the bylaws?
super close.
Let's finish the bylaws, and then we'll go on to the whistleblower.
So we're like as close as we can be, like the most complicated things were done. So now this was an addition that, I just want to make sure that everyone's okay with it. So this is, we're in section, what the hell section are we in? We're deep into it. Article 4, officers. So there's a section number 8, I believe.
Wait, before you
7.
go there,
Yeah.
I did look up, I think you were looking at the interest of the board members. Remember, I was asking if we should
Oh,
put a dollar
interest.
figure?
Yeah.
It says under ABO in here, I just looked it up, that the majority of the board, exclusive of ex officio members, must meet the independence requirements of section 2825 of Public Authorities Law, blah, blah. And then section 2825 defines an independent member as one who has not been employed by a public authority or affiliate in an executive capacity over the past 2 years, has not been employed by an entity that received more than $15,000 from the public authority or received any other form of financial assistance of more than $15,000. And then is not a relative and an executive of the public.
Okay, so I have a question. If I don't receive $15,000, so I was on the board of Main Street Theater. I was a volunteer. Richard told me I cannot weigh in on anything to do with Main Street Theater for 2 years. If I haven't received $15,000 from them, that still holds.
But Main Street Theater has received it.
But I have.
Public purpose fund. No,
I have not.
Not you, but if your organization does, I believe.
Yeah, is your question, would still be interested by the definition, is that your question?
Yeah.
By the way, this is interested directors, and this is independent directors. There's a difference.
Okay, it's under ABO.
Is it interested or independent?
I don't feel any issue with this, 'cause
Yeah.
like if you are
There's
making a dollar off of
independent
someone, you should
and this is
declare that you're making a
independent.
dollar off of them.
Yeah.
That might have
No,
been-
it's not independent, it just says independence requirement.
It's independent
Okay.
directors, and these are interested directors.
okay.
So they're
Okay.
different things.
Ah.
Independent directors
Okay.
that are not employed by the
you for the
corporation.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are interest, conflict of interest,
Okay.
so they,
I'm very comfortable with the language that's there right now. If you're gonna make $10 out of something, you should say you're gonna make $10 off of it. And
No.
then,
My question is totally different, though. I'm not disputing the language. The language is fine.
Yeah.
I'm just interested from my own perspective. Do I still have to recuse from anything dealing with the Main Street Theater for 2 years? I mean, I've been off for a year already. I just still have another.
yeah, but it has nothing to do with interested directors.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's
another-
interested
independent.
directors
It's
is
another
one
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Independent, this is like.
We are talking about is independent
Conflict
director.
of interest, independent directors,
Yeah.
whether they are not employed by the
Yeah.
corporation, which means
I think
independent.
what Lydia is asking, do we have a clause about that? It's not about interested directors, but if,
We have entire policy, conflict of
She would have
interest,
to
which
recuse
has.
herself.
right.
Because, that would be like a self-dealing kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Any vote that would involve this,
Yeah.
Main Street Theater, you have to recuse yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have another year. Okay, that's fine.
But it's kind of interesting, could I talk about this? So interested directors, and if already we're bringing this up, because it's kind of, I love these type of conversations. Let's say we want to do a green initiative. It's something I would love to do, and basically help sponsor all the roofs of all the buildings and all the islands to greenify and put a garden up to enable them and maybe help with funding, because it will reduce the cost in the buildings and it will be good for the environment. Technically, I would be an interested party if it happened in my building as well. But it's not about my building specifically, it's about something that would benefit the whole island. I think the sentence here right now would mean I would have to recuse myself, and every board member would have to recuse themselves, because there would be a financial benefit to all the buildings on the island. Right, exactly. So would this prevent us from being able to talk about stuff that are like major involving the full island, that are not necessarily for a specific building, but are for the benefit of the whole island?
Yeah, I think you gotta look at the purpose of this type of
Exactly.
language that gets at the appearance of impropriety is not whether you literally will benefit, but whether it could appear that you do.
But would something like that appear that way?
Yeah, because I think you could easily make an argument like, hey, this is my building, I live at 455 Main Street, if REOC was discussing anything dealing with 455 Main Street, I would just recuse myself.
But what if,
I probably wouldn't benefit at all from it, but,
Well, what if
in
we're discussing it
the
as a whole?
direct,
Yeah, but I'm saying discussing as a whole, not about a
like all
specific
the
building.
buildings.
yeah.
I'm completely with you on,
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
But
No,
again-
but I agree with you about if you're talking about a specific building,
Yeah.
but I'm saying if you talk macro and you say, hey, let's do, green roofs, we're not talking about a specific building. Let's come up with an initiative to incentivize the buildings to go green.
No, there be
Island-wide
no
is
conflict,
fine.
oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
There'd be no conflict there, 'cause, I mean, we are residents of Roosevelt Island, everything we do impacts Roosevelt Island.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm good, we're good?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one is kind of interesting. I'll just recap. It's section 7 in the same area. Originally, I don't remember what the language was there, but I think it only said the treasurer. And we don't really have a treasurer, and we don't, so we just added the CFO or the controller, which I don't think we have a controller, but it was just like
You
a,
have a deputy controller.
exactly.
Okay, where are you now, what article?
Section 7.
that's just done.
Article 4, Article 4. Okay, so I'm marking this as okay unless someone has an issue.
Or Article 7, Section 4.
Article 4, Section 7.
So we're by the other stuff. Okay,
Yeah, treasurer, exactly. So this was just the inclusion of the CFO or controller, just to make it clear, like, who's responsible. So that is resolved.
Should CFO be written out, though? Not just abbreviated?
Which one?
Chief Financial Officer, right?
Yes, it should be.
Should be written out.
spelled
I-
out.
Not-
Or, you know what, go up to Article 4, Section 1, we spell out Chief Financial Officer
Mhm.
and
Yeah, just
COO,
confirm that.
like, to put in parentheses,
Oh, we
the
can-
abbreviations for all of those
Right.
things in
Yeah.
Section 1.
Where is that? Up here, right?
Yeah, if you go up
Right
to
here.
The
Article 4,
officers-
Section 1,
Article 4, Section 1.
yeah.
Parentheses and quotes.
Yeah, I'm just finding it, one second. Oh, this one, right?
You're right
Keep
there.
going, keep
Oh,
going.
more? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Section 1.
Section 1.
I apologize. Section 1, okay, so then
Yeah,
we just put
there.
your,
So, yeah, behind each of those, put in quotes, like the abbreviations,
So quote,
in quotes,
in quotes.
oh, in quotes?
In parentheses.
in the
quotes.
parentheses, yes.
Yes.
I learned. Chief Financial Officer,
Parentheses and quotes.
CFO. I love it. And then anytime after that, you could just do the acronym.
And COO.
COO.
Hey, can we do GC for general counsel?
Yeah.
Should we?
Just
Okay.
make sure it's not the general contractor.
Okay.
Okay. GC.
Yeah, you wanna put a space between the word and your first parenthetical there. I'll use those.
Okay. Okay, we're good?
For chief financial officer too, yeah. We're good.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Thank
approve
you.
all this stuff.
All right.
And let's go on to the next comment.
So
So,
then in removal, we need consistent road, but it's just mostly, you don't have to do this.
yeah, we can clean that later.
Yeah, we can.
So we might clean it offline, but we're not gonna change any content, we're just like gonna
Right.
clean it up, okay? Agreed. Okay, so, I think this was a question, and I know there's a legal definition of independent. I'm just gonna,
Drew, just.
That's what she was just reading.
yeah.
That's what I
So,
was reading.
I don't feel like we need to add it in, because it's literally, we could go to the ABO to get what independent means. So are we good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna resolve that. And what's this compensation? So this we talked about already, so, and it was resolved, so I think we're resolved. I think we are, everything else is resolved. So I think we're done with the budget. So everyone is good with the changes that we have so far, and are we good with, sending it to ABO and for the board for, approval?
I'm good. Let's go around.
Yeah, I think
Good.
so.
We're good?
enough.
Conway says yes.
Is it going to the board before ABO or ABO before the board? Or
We're sending it to
simultaneous?
ABO and in parallel moving it to the board, but if the ABO says stop, then we'll stop. But so we'll be explicit. So we're sending it to ABO literally today. They're gonna get back to us next week, and if they have something small to change, then we might need to have another modification, unless we could do this via email, and then we'll present that change to the full board.
Can we do this by email?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, yeah,
Conway says, Lotta,
yeah.
can we do this by email? If ABO comes back and says you need to make a small change?
Oh, yes, of
Yeah.
course, yes.
Okay,
Ministerial,
so that's
yes.
what we'll do.
Somehow I think they will be,
Yeah.
like, they won't have any.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
okay.
So Lotta, you're gonna get this out hopefully by end of day today?
Yeah, I'll email it out, to you,
Monday?
the original and the new one, right?
Monday.
I'll send out the original and the new one, and then, if you guys could make it public so the public could see the changes as
We
well.
will post it before the
Yeah,
board meeting because
exactly.
it is a part of the
Monday you're
agenda.
off, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, Monday, I'm off.
Oh.
Is the intention
So
for
we
this to
have
go
the
to the
next
next
board
meeting?
meeting.
Clean and red line?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ben is gonna send it out.
Yeah, I'll send it out today.
Thank you, Ben.
Of course.
The
Appreciate it.
intention is for this to
Yeah.
be presented to the board at the next meeting for approval?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't need outside counsel for this, right? Or,
No, because ABO will be,
And you also did it to the open, what?
Open committee, yeah,
governance, and
yeah.
then
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
ABO.
so,
And if and ever at any point someone says there's a law that's being broken, we'll automatically and immediately resolve it, because our bylaws are even stating it officially now that, of course, the law comes before anything else.
okay.
Um,
Megan, you okay with that?
I'm sorry, okay with
Megan?
what?
What
moving
we
it to
just
the board.
said, moving it to the board after ABO
Yep, that's,
review.
Yep.
Okay.
September 19th. Okay, so I'm actually really excited about this, so we're moving on to whistleblower policy. We've done incredible progress, so since we last, with the generous help of Lada and Martha and the whole team, so it was really fun to work on this together. The main changes were, we wanted to make sure that our whistleblower policy is very straightforward and very clear, so anyone that has any concern, they could easily figure out what do they need to do. So from the definition perspective, and I kind of want to start from then, and then we'll go line by line, we added a new section, and the section was really just to help someone that has a concern figure out what is the process that they should follow. And we kind of deliberately did it sequential. So first is internal reporting. So to your direct supervisor, and let me expand this a bit further so it's easier to see. Yeah. So
Thank you.
I'm not going to read verbatim, you guys could read it while I'm speaking. So one is go to your direct manager or supervisor. If you're not comfortable with doing that, which obviously might happen because maybe your direct supervisor is involved, then you go to human resources. If you're not comfortable with human resources, then you go to the legal department. If you're not comfortable with the legal department, then you go to a board member. So we kind of like deliberately build it kind of like in layers. First your boss, then HR, then legal, then a board member. Now, if you're not comfortable with all of them, because maybe you feel that they're all in cahoots, then you move on to the next stage, which is going outside of the organization. And then we listed out all the different organizations and kind of wrote in high level, what do they do? So when would you go to the ABO? ABO is one of our key ones, so that's what's in the first one. And I wanted to talk lightly about anonymity.
Anonymity.
About that. So I wanted to speak about that part. Obviously, it's really hard to create complete.
Anonymity.
I need to come up with a different word. I'm not asking to change it right now, but I feel that it really would be good if our IT department or hopefully listening to us, just create a new form, just like we do for public meetings when we want people to put their name and email and whatnot, to just create a form without an email, without a name, or optional email and optional name, to enable them to write whatever they want and attach whatever they want to attach. And I think that should be sent. We need to figure out who does it get sent to, right? Does it get sent, that is an internal one, right? I personally believe it should be sent to everyone. So if someone is, which I say everyone, that means CEO, CFO, general counsel, and the board. Then we're aware. And then we can't say we didn't know about it. And then it's a matter of like who needs to follow up on it. That's internal conversations. But not adding anything now, that's something that we should probably come up with, like what would be the right process for it.
Depending on the issue itself.
Yeah, we don't know what the issue would be.
Yes, but I'm
Yeah.
saying it's tough to be anonymous if the issue itself
Oh, yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of reveals who it is without
Right.
naming names.
Right.
So that would have to go outside the corporation, I would guess, if it's,
So then we just push people to go outside when they want to be
when they
anonymous,
want to be anonymous.
which I think is reasonable.
Yeah, or if they don't care, if the issue is not one of
Exactly.
those, they want everybody, as long as they know.
No, I think that's a good point. So whenever you want to be anonymous, we can guarantee that you have to go to those external parties. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, I agree with Margie. I
As
think like
well.
internal process is overkill because whistleblower actually it's also covered by policy, access and assistance program is covered by public authorities law. And authorities budget office was tasked with creating this assistance program. And that's why they have this template or their model policy for whistleblower that we actually utilize. So we didn't come up with our own, we just copied and made some adjustments to the authorities' budget office policy, the model policy that they drafted for every other authorities. So I think if we go into the smaller details, this undermines the entire idea of whistleblower protection and policy, creating some internal forms.
No, we're all in agreement. We don't have
Right,
to dig
okay,
into
so
it.
we're not doing
Okay?
this. So again.
So let's just change the language here, because we all agree now, we're not debating it. So, so not provided by the agency, because we don't provide anonymity, so we need to change the sentence to something that's a bit more broad, that says like, provided by the external agencies.
Yes, because the whistleblower, the definition in public authorities law, it's actually the.
Are you good with this? Like, Lada, you don't have to worry about it, because we
Okay.
agree with you.
Okay.
Are you okay with this change, that we're saying provided by the external agency? So that way we're saying you want to be anonymous, that's not through us, you have to go outward to get that anonymity.
Yes, and if you go to these agencies, they do already have this,
Exactly,
like, well, if
exactly.
you want to put your name, or they already.
I'm completely good with that as well. Cool.
Yeah, and when you're doing your ethics training, they
Yeah.
give you the number
Yeah.
and who to call.
100%. So then we go down to the relevant government agencies, and they're listed out just like if it's the OIG, and we provided their contact information, if it's COLIG, if it's the Public Integrity Bureau. I'm learning new stuff, although I copy pasted it for somewhere else before, and you guys helped modify it, which I appreciate. Division, so but I don't have to go one by one, but we're basically listing out all the places where you could go and explain what do they do and why would you approach them. And then I don't think we need to read it.
I
Say
just
that
had a,
again.
so you list the ABO and external agencies, but you also list them separately? Is that intentional, or is that just an unintended duplicate? Because in this
I think it's
section,
an
now you have them listed, and then above in a separate section, you have them listed as number 2.
I agree.
Yes,
I
in
agree.
clean version, I tried to remove that because ABO was actually
I
mentioned
delete
three times. We
I'm
need to
deleting
leave it once.
I'm deleting it. All good with deleting?
Yeah, delete it.
Done. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. And then, yeah, I completely agree with you.
Because,
And
yeah,
why
it's
the
in
controller's
clean version.
office?
Say that again?
Why is the state controller's office listed when
In what
REAP
section?
doesn't really benefit from any state appropriated dollars?
Which section? We don't know what you're talking
No,
about.
it was green. I'm sorry. You were scrolling through it very quickly. I don't know the name of the section, but below where you list the external
This one?
agencies.
The Office of
In
State
this
Control,
section, you list the state
Division of
controller's office.
Investigation.
Keep going down.
Can I have a suggestion, Ben? Because I actually removed everything, and we have a cleaner version of this, already, because you're now going through something that I already cleaned up.
For some reason, it's where I'm opening old stuff, so you already modified this, right?
Yes, I already modified. We have a clean version of that.
But it's not in our directory.
It's not on.
I'm in the directory now.
See, this is where Google Docs would have saved it.
Draft clean.
They should do, unless the person who SharePoint would have done that as long as you closed out.
Let me ask Mark.
No, maybe I just went in the wrong one.
Because there was a clean version.
Is it this? No.
Let me ask Mark.
I think there are
Well, you
only
have-
4 in the clean version.
You have 3 versions open.
Yes, that's the one.
This one?
Yeah, same.
Okay.
The one you-
Okay, yeah, I apologize,
that one is
because
amendment.
my hope was that there will be only one document here, but okay, so we're good. So this is our document, so let's rename it. So let's rename it to 9-6.
Yes,
That's
that's
one.
mine. Yeah, I recognize
Okay,
it.
so that's 6, okay, so cool, yeah, that looks way better. So I don't know if we have to go into literally every single word here unless you guys want to. No,
The first section, literally from authorities budget office, I would change agency to, there was only question that actually, Conway asked about.
Right, about
the definition
employees,
of
right.
employees. So of course, board members are not REAC employees. And it's not the definition in the law, neither in.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so it's not. But authorities budget office added this definition. So it's not employee in legal sense, but like it's an extended definition. It's for purposes of this policy only,
I see.
employee. And
Okay.
I look at Battery Park City and ESD, they also use the
Okay.
same definition, but it should be understood that, of course, board members are not employees. Plus, we also have independent contractors who are
Right.
also not employees, right?
Right.
But they're also included for the purposes of this
Okay.
policy only.
Conway, you're good with that?
Then we can, let's put some, like, for the avoidance of doubt language in here to say, obviously, board members are not employees, but for the purpose of this policy.
Yes, we can add this
this
for
is
the
the definition.
purposes of this policy.
So let's do that right now.
Definition.
Yeah.
Can I write for the purpose of this policy in the beginning, and then we're good?
Yes, for the purposes of this policy only, because it also includes, contract.
I spell everything wrong.
And I also don't think it's employed pursuant to contract is good, because in 2022, Department of Labor made changes to their definition of employee, and they included independent contractor. I put this definition to the right.
Oh, do you want me to change it?
No, we should put independent contract, because it says employed pursuant to contract, which implies it's employed.
Okay, so one second, Lada, I'm finding it hard to understand what I need to do. So do you want me to add, another sentence?
For the purposes of this policy,
Yeah.
all board members and officers and employees pursuant to contract and independent contractors, because independent
Yeah,
contractors.
like, you just tell me where I need to add it, and.
Right, after it says employees pursuant to contract,
You will
then
see
say-
here, for the purposes of employees and individual, can you just move further?
Ben, over on the right side.
I did,
Or
yeah.
employed as independent contractors. So we need to put not, just contractors, employed as
yeah,
individual.
independent contract.
Just, we
You have
just
to
use
add
it.
If I understand it correctly, you want me to copy this whole thing and replace what's there?
No, just leave it as ABO suggested, because they also added the board members.
Okay.
So we only need employee,
It
or,
says employee pursuant
I feel like
to
we're
contract.
getting way too complicated for no reason.
Yeah,
We just wanna add,
maybe
wait,
just
one
leave it
second.
like
We just wanna add one word or two. I just wanna know where to add
You
it.
want to make the edit?
Yeah, that would be good.
We
Laptop?
did it to the art
Yeah.
gallery.
I can-
And him,
I-
yeah.
I
Did
know where
you
it is.
understand what you
Yeah,
did?
We had,
Okay.
because we have no employees in the art gallery.
Yeah, one thing, I'm trying to say that I don't need an explanation. I'm all for changing. I
No,
just
know,
want it to
I'm
be
just saying,
changed.
We use something like anyone having any relevant interaction, whatever, and
Yeah.
like, instead of saying the contractors, the artists, the visitors, whatever,
Right.
we put it like one sentence.
Right.
We didn't list everybody, because you're gonna forget somebody.
Of course.
By the way, I think I found a couple of typos back in the bylaws.
Cool.
When we're done with the whistleblower,
Yeah.
let's go back there real quick.
Okay. I'm not taking responsibility for the typos.
That's why we have multiple eyes.
yeah, we'll clean everything
Thank
up
you.
before,
Okay, here you go. Is that, Lada, that's how you want it?
employees pursuant to contract, employees, I mean, okay, or we can just leave it employed as, without employed pursuant to contract, or just leave employed as independent contractors.
As independent,
Okay.
as independent.
No, it's there already.
It's there already.
It's already.
It's already
No, no,
there.
no.
I already put that in there. She's saying take out pursuant to contract.
So remove this whole place that I highlighted?
I think marching
Yes.
also and
Correct.
any other
Correct.
relevant
Correct.
parties makes sense too.
But you have to put the word as,
Everybody that we'd interact with.
employed as, yes. And I think there's a spacing thing.
Okay.
Okay,
Are we good?
yes.
No, Okay? Okay, so I'm gonna mark this as good?
Okay.
That was harder than I thought it would be. Okay, so this is,
Yes, if I may explain, because you,
Please.
Lydia put this original, there was a language here referencing other executive agencies and the entire list of public authorities, but that was a definition of the covered agency from our prior policy. And it meant the TRIAC is a part of this definition. So I think it was put in error here, I just
So
removed
do you want to
it.
take it out?
Yeah, yes, I just removed it,
That's
but,
fine.
yes, it was,
So what
it should have,
added in-
it just-
I wouldn't have tried to list them out, because you're
Yeah.
gonna forget somebody.
I wouldn't
You
either.
know, suppose one of the nonprofits thinks there's some fraud going on in the public purpose fund or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
You want them to have to report it. 'Cause
So what would you add, or any,
anyone having any relevant, interaction with the agency,
or any, individual with relevant,
any individual or group having any.
But all, these individuals are not covered by this policy, they can complain without even having.
oh, they wouldn't be fired.
They have a
Yeah,
right.
Not officially fired.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you cannot be fired for this.
But that's what the point of this
It
is.
was kind of to tell them how to blow the whistle, and that's the way we did it, to hear the steps you can take.
Yeah, so that's why we have even contractors here,
Okay.
everyone, board members.
No, but
employees.
I think I get it, because like, we're gonna be sending this to our employees twice a year, or something like that, so they're aware of what's going on. And I'm assuming contractors as well, but we're not gonna be sending it out to just people in the
It would
public.
be on the website.
People in public can complain without this policy, they're the
Right.
members of.
But it's not intended for them, it's intended for people who are.
Absolutely no,
Yeah.
that's a covered, that's why that was a definition of covered agency.
Got it. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we're not ignoring what Margie said. Okay, so you're good with so you want us to continue
Yeah,
explaining
you
this?
can, no,
We're good?
I just removed it and it's.
Okay. Resolve, review, next. Not recommended.
Yes, that was a section you will be fired for not reporting, and yes, I spoke
Yeah.
to, I said.
No, that makes sense. So yeah, because we have to say this in public, is that the whistleblower policy is not like a judge and jury, it's just a document to help whistleblowers know,
Their protection,
Their protection,
they're right,
exactly.
but you
So if we're
are
trying to, yeah.
threatening, if you don't report it, you'll be fired?
don't be scared to whistleblow, but if we don't, we'll fire you is probably.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now, we talked about this, and we said, we changed that, but I don't remember what we changed it,
I think there was a comment from Megan before mine, one more reply, because Megan said it's already covered.
yeah, no, we're changing it now, we already talked about it, done through external agencies, can be done through external agencies.
Yes, and the question here regarding board members, if board members are considered REAC employees, right? for the
You
pur-
just defined it, yeah.
Yes, so then they will go with complaint to board members. I think board members should be excluded here completely.
No, of course not, because also legal department is employees, and also human resources is employees,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the supervisor is employees.
Right, but board members,
It's all the same, it's about like your steps. So if you want to keep it inside, you go through
Yeah, right.
your supervisor, then HR, then legal, then board, and then you go out.
So are you suggesting that the board members should be on this chain for initial reporting as an option?
Yeah, that's what we're saying, yeah.
Yeah, so you okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I had, yeah.
And they're the last one, so it's first you go to your supervisor. If you don't feel comfortable, you go to HR. If you don't feel comfortable, you go to legal. If you don't feel comfortable, you go to a board member. And if you're not comfortable with any of them, then it's time to go out. You can't.
But I also think it's.
You gotta, well, no, you have to say, you gotta clarify that this is the order.
Yeah,
Internal,
But-
order of internal reporting.
But I also would add, if it's a whistleblower and someone is not happy with how corporation operate or some suspicions of, they don't have to follow this order. We shouldn't be putting someone in this, you should go to this, did you go to
we're
the
not.
manager, when you go
Oh,
to
you think,
this
sure,
option, but we are not mandating.
So we're saying
Yeah, but
may.
we're saying it's suggested.
Yeah.
It's just suggested.
Yes, so because there was a section here, you should follow this order, and I removed it, because we need to, don't put the whistleblower into any frames on the,
Yeah.
they can go
Agreed.
to internal reporting, or they can go straight to human resources without manager.
Let's read it out, because I feel like this is becoming more of a, and we want to make sure that we're doing the language correctly.
You said they should follow.
So
the
let me, 1 second, I'm gonna read it out and then stop me anytime you feel uncomfortable with any word there. So the steps of whistleblower reporting. This is the suggested order of reporting. To your point, Conway just added that in. Internal reporting. Direct supervisor or manager, the employee may first report the issue to their direct supervisor or manager if they feel comfortable doing so. This is often the most immediate and direct way to address the concern. Human resources, if the employee is uncomfortable reporting to their supervisor or the issue involves a supervisor, they can escalate the complaint to the HR department. HR is responsible for handling such matters and ensuring proper procedures are followed. If the employee is uncomfortable reporting to their supervisor or the issue involves the supervisor, they can escalate the complaint to the general counsel legal department. If an employee is not comfortable reporting to HR legal department, they can escalate the complaint to a board member. The employee should, is it too hard to say should? The employee should follow the procedure outlined in this policy. The report, I feel like we could remove this whole thing.
And now, that's exactly like Megan said. If you go to section 1, on the very first page, section 1 reporting wrongdoing, that's what we already said this, and it's already.
So you're good with deleting it? We're all
Yes,
okay with
it's
it?
in this section already.
We're not removing the section, we're just talking about this.
No, we already said this in section 1, reporting wrongdoings. Now go back.
I know, but we're creating a more streamlined, structural way of how is recommended for you to do it. So I'm just removing this line, because
But
it
it's
sounds like
already,
it's
just read this first sentence.
not. I understand that, but we wanna keep it. I hear what you're saying. I
But
think
we're
the structure is
repeating
important.
something that we already
Okay.
said.
That's
in
okay.
the pages section.
That's okay,
It's okay.
yeah.
Because it's already said.
That's
this is
okay,
the
though.
process.
I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm saying you're 100% right, and it's okay.
Information.
Yeah, but this is for people who wanna just skip to the end.
Right,
But
Right, but you
I
already
think
said
this
that.
gives a better process.
right.
You know, because here, it's just saying, if you go to section A, on the second page, it says the RIA employee shall disclose any information concerning wrongdoing, either orally written, report to the supervisor, or to RIA's ethics officer, or general counsel, or human resources. So I think this kind of gives you the chain, of who they can go to.
But it doesn't include the
Yeah.
ethics officer.
I don't think we have one.
No, ethics office, general counsel is actually
Yeah.
ethics office.
Yes.
Generally speaking, this is, not speaking generally, the order presented here is the recommended order of filing a complaint. Yeah? Or I think it's too verbose, it's not even needed, to be honest. I don't think it's needed, because this is just a suggested order to make it easier for people
I
to
wouldn't even
figure
say-
out what to do.
I think order is kind of restrictive because I think it should be options. Here are your options for reporting. Because
Suggested order,
No.
suggested order. It's not options, it's a suggested order, because like you first should go to your immediate
No,
boss.
that's exactly what Megan said, and I agree with you. We should not put this
yeah, you
order on
can't
people. They
limit
can
people
go
to who they
whoever they
report to.
want.
They may not be
Suggested.
comfortable doing any of this, and that's
It's
not
suggesting
clear.
because it's pressure on people. They will think, oh, I didn't go to manager, or I didn't
They
go
can
to
skip
HR. Why would I
anyone
go
who-
to?
Yeah, anyone who has something to report can entirely skip the internal reporting and go right to external if they wish to. You know, you're
Yeah.
limiting
Yeah, then we should,
by saying
We
this.
should not put the word order. We should put these as suggested options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
here are your
that's good.
resources. These are your resources to
Right.
file a complaint. That's how you say it. I wouldn't even say optional. These are your resources. And
Mhm.
feel free to use them as you wish.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Megan. Thank you.
Smiley face. Okay, so I'll remove this order of reporting. You don't have to say order. It's kind of like given that that's what it is. So all suggestions here are optional and are intended to help create a clear overview of the options and not intended to be a directive.
Options twice. We don't need to put optional and options in one sentence.
Options here are intended to help create a clear overview and not intended to be a directive. Okay? So, yeah, and back to what Megan was saying earlier, 2 is ABO again, so we could delete that because I think it's in the end. Oh, it's not.
No, I moved it already to external reporting. Authorities budget or,
I'm in the document that I think I'm in the document.
yeah, and
Yeah, I am. I'm in the
numbering
document.
is all off. I need to clean this. Because
Okay.
there need to be subsections,
So, again, so external reporting,
additional relevant.
external reporting. I think all we want to do is just move. God, this is so, I'm just gonna move it, and if anyone objects, they object. So ABO, I'm moving to the bottom, because I think that's where it's supposed to be.
Well, it
No,
was there
they-
already.
honestly, the ABO should be the first agency because they are in charge of the whistleblower policies.
And they
for
could
others.
forward it onwards to other agencies.
Yes, and they can determine where to send it. We have additional, so there was actually not a duplicate, a triplicate of ABO, and I was trying to move the entire section for external reporting because State Authorities Budget Office is external, obviously, and this is the major agency that oversees whistleblower policies and programs. And there are additional governmental, it's in 4 now, relevant government agencies for reporting on doing. And then we can list others as additional sources.
Got it.
ABO
So-
first, and then Inspector General, ethics.
So I'm just gonna paraphrase what you're saying, just to make sure that we're on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
That your recommendation is, this is the list of internal options. ABO is the key, so we're putting it right after that. And then confidentiality, we said that we don't support confidentiality internally. If the employee wishes to remain anonymous, they should use available anonymous reporting mechanisms provided by ABO.
Yeah, that's our, and then we have additional government agencies for reporting. Maybe
Yep.
not relevant, but just
No,
additional.
but that's good. I think it all looks good to me.
Because ABO was also relevant. We should say the word additional, in addition to ABO.
Do you wanna change it? So,
Or we can move it.
additional
So Megan, I wanted to address something that you said about the comptroller. I think that if we're also going to have, contractors, we think that there's some fraud going on, that they need to be able to report it to the office of the comptroller.
Right, but
And I think it's
usually,
fair. I think
I mean,
that
just
all
from
employees-
It's on the last
experience,
page, yeah.
the state comptroller is really gonna focus on, funds that originated with a state appropriation
Mhm.
for them in some way, and I think, I mean, it's
It's-
fine, you wanna leave
yeah.
it, I don't want somebody going to them and it incorrectly when they should be going somewhere else. And like have that request get lost in some way.
Yeah,
I
that's,
think the state comptroller is like one of the least frequently used reporting options by a public benefit corporation because they do not get appropriated funds very often. So I want to make sure that someone's using a resource that's going to actually take action and help them. And I don't know how often that's going to be the case for the state comptroller.
I agree with Megan because we have the instances where people were complaining to controller's office and they said, send it back to Rick. They will just send it to us. It's a
Unfortunately,
plan.
the same applies to ABO because they're understaffed. They don't have enough staff to be able to reply to like
But-
whistleblowers, unfortunately.
Yeah, but at least they can direct to appropriate agencies,
Yeah.
like Inspector General.
Yeah.
But again, and also there's only there's certain amount of contracts that overseen by the Office of State Controller with exceeding $1 million, or how many do you remember, Drew? When we need to report to State Controller, the contracts exceeding $1 million, right? Or there's a threshold.
It is $1 million.
So there's other
Yeah.
contracts or something else will not
That's
fall
correct.
under their purview. So their scope is limited in investigating REAC.
So maybe we need to put that down.
I don't know, we just need to, we will send our own employees to a wrong entity.
So what is your recommendation now that we said it? Are you guys suggesting that we move other external agencies and point everyone to the ABO? Is
No,
that-
we can
No,
keep
Yeah,
I think
keep
we
it- I
need
would just
to
keep it as
define
the
that
last one on the
controller's
list.
office. Megan, you broke up, didn't understand the word you said,
I was
but
just-
before you
I'm not saying
continue.
I'm not saying necessarily delete it, but maybe move it to the bottom of the list so that someone doesn't get like
Okay, but I think
directed
you also need
that
to,
first.
you need to specify that it's only good for claims of projects above $1 million.
Yes.
So they
I
know
don't
not to,
know
if it's not,
Of
if it's-
fraud,
I-
rape, and abuse.
I need to look up exactly what they're investigating.
Of over $1 million?
just 1 million.
Don't
I think,
forget.
I have to confirm that.
Yes, I also need to,
Okay.
because I cannot tell that.
Okay, so let's agree as a committee that if you feel that you need to modify it, please feel free and we'll vote on whatever you bring to us, to the full board, because I don't think we have to go into that minutia right now.
Okay,
But if from a legal perspective, you feel like something needs to change, please do change it,
Mhm,
and we'll vote on it in the next board meeting, because I feel like that we're so close.
mhm.
Maybe it's like a few words that might change, but we need a whistleblower policy. The one we have right now is,
Absolutely, yes.
so let's just get it through. So whatever you need to change, if you could do it in the next week.
Okay,
Yes,
so I just looked it up. There's two limits. The first is the comptroller's contract oversight extends to most state agency contracts. Generally, those where the contract value exceeds $50,000. The comptroller may also review state public authority contracts valued at more than $1 million if they are either awarded non-competitive,
Competitive.
yes, or paid in whole or in part from state appropriations.
Can I make a suggestion, and you guys could add whatever language you need in here? I would just suggest that when we put something in number 3, right, so, additional government agencies, just something that says if you don't know where to approach, go to the ABO. So here are agencies that you could go to if you feel like that's the right agency to go to, but if you're not sure, ABO is kind of our default, and they'll redirect you to the right place.
mhm.
But if it's anonymous, then the ABO will pick it up and hopefully forward it on. So if you need to add some language, like, so Megan was saying that ABO, we put them as the first one deliberately because of that. We're providing all the different agencies that they could approach that's more specifically focused on that. And if you add just one more sentence that just says, if you're not sure, ABO.
Yes, and also in section 1, reporting wrongdoing, and subparagraph A, I put the language where should people go? To ABO, Office of Inspector General,
Beautiful.
or to other appropriate
Yeah,
agencies
perfect.
listed in section 4 below.
Beautiful.
So-
So I think we're good. So if there's anything there, so I'm happy. Do we need to go through any more, or are we good with just authorizing it to go to the
I
full
think
board?
this is good enough, like,
Good.
I mean, it's, yeah, because
So,
ABO already did the most important part for us. We used their template, just verify some.
Okay, so I'm gonna go around, get a consensus. If you have an issue, say, so Lotta, you're good?
Yes,
Conway?
Fine.
Margie? Audrey?
Good.
Sue? Dan?
Good.
Megan?
Good.
Megan?
Awesome.
Good,
Good.
fantastic.
Awesome. And after we all approve to moving forward, I don't want to put it in the policy, just a question of like, we need to make sure that our employees and contractors and whatnot are aware of the policy once it's published. So we have to make sure that we let the employees know at least in some sort of frequency about it.
I just want to add that Department of Labor actually mandates every state authority
Awesome.
to put this there. They have the actual
Beautiful.
poster or
Okay.
whistleblower policy.
Awesome.
So all employees and
Are aware.
contractors are
Gorgeous.
aware. It should be conspicuously posted.
Is it like right now? our
I
current
think I
policy where
saw
it's-
something about it in one of our offices, but we can
Okay.
check, and it's mandated in addition to this policy, which will be posted on the website.
So in other words, we don't need more policies about that, but let's just make sure we distribute it in a way where
Yeah,
people could
they'll
access it.
email.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's Division of Labor,
Yeah, like the food, the lounge and all that stuff, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you. All right, onward, next one.
That's all I have on my end, unless you want to talk about, no,
What time is it?
you wanted to talk about the buses, but I don't know if, yeah.
Well, the only thing I wanted to say about the buses is now, hopefully, the crisis is over. Now we have to put governance in place to make sure the crisis doesn't happen again. So I already emailed out during the crisis, the steps that I wanted to take for governance to make sure that didn't happen. Were you able to read that
Yeah,
email?
I did read it.
Is that fine? Okay. The things that I was looking for were, looking at the inventory management system, just to make sure it's okay. Do we have an inventory management system? I think I need to either have a conversation with you and Mary to see what's going on. So I just wanted to make sure that going
We
forward,
have inventory
you
management.
do have so I'd like to, just make sure that it covers.
Just making sure we have, we plan in advance about
Mhm.
getting those supplies that we need.
So that's the thing, the inventory management system should have embedded in, hopefully it's an electronic system, I don't know. If it is an electronic, even if it isn't, we need to have at least 6 months to a year's advance, expected inventory on order. So that's what I'm not clear about, because I know that we got the parts from the MTA, so they were able to get the parts. We had parts on order that were supposed to come in 6 months, or 6 weeks, or whatever the time frame is. Those parts should have been ordered a year ago, or 6 months ago, or whatever the thing was. So that's what I'm mostly concerned about in the inventory management system. We should have manuals for these buses that tell us when to expect to replace specific parts.
Can I make a request to your point? Could we request for you guys to present in the operations committee the current processes and lessons learned from, is there stuff that we're modifying and changing based on, this is all TQM. We had a crisis, we were fixing it. What did we learn from it? How do we prevent this from happening again in 6 months?
Okay.
Yeah, this is squarely operations committee.
That's something, if we can move it into operations to discuss.
Yeah, but I'm addressing it from the governance standpoint, that there was a crisis, we need to address it, and that's what, I just wanna move it forward. And
It's bigger than the buses too.
Yeah.
There should be a planned obsolescence
Yeah,
plan
yeah,
for
yeah,
everything,
yeah.
for the trees, for the.
Where do we decide stuff like that? Is that an operational?
Operations should have a plan.
So could we bring it up to operations
Look
and
at
build
the
up that
end, when
plan?
we can expect this thing to be dead,
Right.
and moving in from that, what do we
Right.
do? And like even with, like say, with the trees. Some of the trees were planted all at the same time. We've got to figure out
Right.
when we've got to take out some relatively healthy trees or trees that aren't absolutely dying so that you won't have, everything will be barren when all those guys die at the same time. Sidewalks, you know, what they put in,
So,
some of the new ones are here, some of the old bricks are there, you need to plan out.
I must say that I agree with Lydia and I agree with Conway that this should be done in operations.
Absolutely should.
But operations should be doing it, so let's make sure that it comes in front of operations so they're focused on it.
Then there's the deferred maintenance plan here, right?
so there's a plan, it's just that the plan for some reason is not being carried out, and so that's where I think governance comes in. If operations is responsible for it.
I think there's a someday soon we're gonna have to get to this. I don't think there's anything, I don't think we could go to a book or a plan and say, when do we expect bus number 10 to be unusable?
So maybe it's
And
like,
we should, for all the
yeah.
equipment we have those, the cherry pickers, all that stuff.
Right.
We don't want.
The tram.
The tram.
Well, for the buses, I mean, we know the useful life of the buses, right? When
Right.
they were purchased, you know, when they were broken down or had repairs, but, we do need to purchase 2 more additional buses, because there are 2 buses.
Right.
Their useful life is coming to an end in 2026, but we need to,
Yeah.
you know,
So that's what I'm saying,
need a
you
purchase
back,
order
Yeah.
now.
you look at
Yeah.
when is, like, from 2026 for
Right.
this one, so
Yeah.
what do we have to do in 2025,
Right.
2026,
Correct.
like
Yeah.
that, that's
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it sounds like let's give the operations committee an opportunity to focus on it, and it really should be led by the operations committee. And hopefully it doesn't have to involve governance, but if it doesn't happen, then maybe it has to come back to governance again.
So I also want to bring up that we need to, from the governance standpoint, we need to enforce the appointments of the committees. Because what happened was, we were told by Megan, by Gretchen, by whoever, that the chair was responsible for appointing the committee members, and that was not the case. So we need to enforce that, so that I think that from the governance committee, we need to bring forth that the resolutions need to re-establish committee members.
Right.
We need to reestablish the committee members, we need to reestablish, and the reason I'm saying this, and I apologize if it's rude, because I understand that a lot of my truths seem rude, but Faye is the chair of the operations committee. She is an elementary school, or retired elementary school reading remediation, 8th grade ELA teacher. She doesn't have any background in operations. I came in day 1 with degrees in operations research, with management experience in operations.
Do you want to switch committees?
So I think I am, and I said so in the bylaws, that the chair of the committees need to be qualified or have an understanding of what it takes to be a chair of that committee, and I don't think that we are using our resources correctly to have that be in place. And she was placed as the chair of the operations committee with the full knowledge of her resume. Gretchen knew her resume. Ruth Ann should have known her resume. Diana should have known her resume. Everybody should have known my resume. So it's very important to me. I don't necessarily have to be chair of the operations committee. It could be anybody, but somebody with the skills and experience base to be chair of the operations committee, to run it effectively, so we don't have a crisis like this.
Right.
But her 10 years
have to be
plus
me.
experience as a board member and experience handling island issues is not sufficient enough for you, Lydia? And also, to flip that, do you have experience being the chair of a governance committee at a public benefit corporation?
I don't, and I publicly acknowledged it, but nobody else was willing to do it, so I was willing to step up. I'm just saying, I was willing to step up because there was no one else that was willing to do it.
Can I make a suggestion? Because obviously, can I make a suggestion, Megan? Why don't we take this offline with all the board members? And initially, like when we talked about what committees we want to be in what was it, like in August or actually July, we were all in agreement. every single board member, the resident board members agreed where should we be in, but we weren't seated in it. How about we just take a fresh look at it and all the board members kind of talk with each other to figure out which committees they want to serve on and where could they provide the most value? Instead of going back into like arguments and whatnot, and just going back and saying, does Faye want to be the chair of that committee? I don't know. I never asked her.
Well, originally when I
Well,
asked, her,
I
she didn't
asked,
even want to
actually,
be.
Ben, for the record, I asked all of you,
Yeah.
every single, absent Conway, because he wasn't on the board yet, where you guys wanted to be, and any volunteers for the governance
Send me a
committee.
list.
And I swapped out the people who wanted to be on other committees and added the people to the governance committee that wanted to be on it. So, like, Lydia, your statements about experience and who should be where, I think there's more to this than you realize. And you're also contradicting your own statement in the seat that you're sitting in. So, I mean, I don't know that we need to, I don't even know how you would enforce any of this that you're saying, but I agree with Ben. We can have this conversation offline and with the full board, and if they have issues with their current seat,